Chapter 1. I stripped myself bare, working hard to please Ethan Cole in all the ways he liked, hoping he would give up marrying another woman. When he kissed me, it felt like there was deep affection, but when he opened his eyes to look at me, his gaze was so clear and cold. It was in these moments that I always reminded myself, I'm just a prostitute, unworthy of such a noble and wonderful man. Could you get married a little later? My voice was small, timid, and humble. Even just one more month with you would be enough. This month has less than 30 days, but I'll pay you for a full month of your time, he said, always generous with his money, already getting out of bed as he spoke. Did he think I just wanted to earn another month's pay from him? My heart emptied as he left, leaving me in a state of unanchored panic. I grabbed the bath towel from the side of the bed and wrapped it around my naked body. Ethan, are you really leaving me? I was like a pet about to be abandoned by its owner, every word a careful, cautious plea, hoping he would let me stay for the sake of our 2 years together. As Ethan Cole dressed in clothes that perfectly encased his flawless physique, he answered me coolly, Sule, don't expect to get anything from me except money. I stood frozen, not daring to take another step, nodding forcefully, trying to be obedient. Yes, don't worry, I won't cling to you. You warned me from the beginning that, when you said it was over, I couldn't have any objections. I wanted to be an obedient pet, to listen to his every command, afraid that his final memories of me would be only of my bad side. But my tears were disobedient. As I nodded, they streamed down my face, and I could only wipe them away again and again. Ethan Cole's eyes were already cold, but now a flash of impatience crossed them. Sule, remember your place. You're just a nightclub prostitute. Don't put on this act of being unable to part with me. Actresses are faithless and whores are heartless. I've only ever seen you as a woman I can sleep with for money. Don't add drama for yourself. From now on, don't look for me. For anything. Tears streamed down my face, but I didn't dare make a sound. Even though his words had sharply pierced my already fragile self-esteem, making my shoulders tremble with pain, I still didn't blame him. He wasn't wrong. I was just a prostitute. I know, you don't owe me anything. It's me who's not good enough for you. My sense of inferiority was bone deep, so I never dared to say no to him. Even when he said we were breaking up, I didn't dare try to keep him, despite the unwillingness in my heart. After Ethan left, the sound of the closing door echoed and shifted in my ears. One moment, it was the thud of the door shutting, the next, a sudden click, as if someone was turning the lock to open it, seemingly accompanied by his footsteps. I was hallucinating, hoping against hope that he would appear before me again. But he was just my client, not my lover. If everyone's memory had a flavor, mine would surely be bitter and acrid. I had no parents, no education, and a critically ill child. I was like rootless duckweed, working as a hostess in a nightclub. My fate changed the day I met Ethan Cole. He offered an exorbitant price to keep me, with no requirements other than being clean and loyal. To pay for my child's medical treatment, I hid the fact that I had ever given birth. I had warned myself not to fall in love. But for 2 years, he had given me a stable life, freeing me from the insecure days at the nightclub. The money he provided was enough to treat my child's illness. I had long come to see him as my only support, even developing an attachment that was hard to let go of. That feeling of destiny often became especially clear in my dreams. He felt like a man I had once loved with a heart-wrenching passion, but my memory was a complete blank. There was nothing. I often wondered, had I once loved someone, recklessly, through fire and water? Could that man have been my child's father? Who was my child's father? Chapter 2. Encounter again. After Ethan Cole left, a suitable heart was found for my son. Overjoyed, I realized I needed more money for unforeseen expenses. I took a job to pose as Julian Croft's girlfriend at a party. He would gain face, and I would get paid. But I never expected that the party I was attending was his engagement ceremony. I sat in the audience, watching the MC tease the new couple on stage. My heart felt like it was being sliced, yet I had to maintain a smile. Julian whispered in my ear, "Lily, you were with Ethan Cole for 2 years. How much did he give you?" I was clearly a prostitute, but deep down, I always resented people looking down on me so openly. I suppose it was a case of wanting to be a saint after being a sinner. "How could I possibly count? He's a generous client," I said, every word sounding worldly and experienced, even my smile. Ethan Cole beat me to you 2 years ago. From now on, you'll be with me. I'll pay you double. How about it? I clenched my fists, the smile on my face strained. Mr. Croft, our agreement for today was that I would only pretend to be your girlfriend. Julian stared into my eyes, unblinking, making my skin crawl. As if possessed, he reached out and caressed my chin, his eyes filled with obsession. Lily, you look so much like a deceased friend of mine. You really do. But your voice is nothing like hers, and neither is your personality. I've seen you in a crop top. You don't have that birthmark on your lower back. You're not her, but you're still 70% similar. I really, really like you. I'm infatuated with you. 2 years ago, if Ethan Cole hadn't publicly made you his, I would have definitely had you. My heart skipped a beat, as if I had just heard a ghost story. A cold sweat broke out on my back after he finished speaking. He suddenly tried to kiss me, and I flinched back in fright. Mr. Croft, I called out to him. His eyes flickered, as if he had just snapped back to reality, and he released my chin. Julian took my hand and held it in his. Lily, since you're playing my girlfriend today, holding hands is necessary. Don't worry, I won't do anything out of line. I gave an awkward laugh. I know. Still shaken, I excused myself to the restroom to calm down. I turned on the faucet and splashed cold water on my face. The way Julian had looked at me gave me the creeps. It was the same look Ethan had when he first requested me at the club. The lock on the door clicked and I jumped. It was Ethan Cole. What was he doing in the women's restroom? He looked at me, his gaze cold and calm, seemingly placid, but the aura around him was terrifying. Startled, I backed away. He closed in on me. What did I say? Actresses are faithless and whores are heartless. That describes a woman like you perfectly, doesn't it? How could I argue? I could only let out a long sigh. Ethan, it's just that Mr. Croft asked me to pretend to be his girlfriend. He gave me $10,000. I desperately needed the money. Ethan Cole cornered me. Today it's pretending to be a girlfriend. In a few days, you'll be pretending in bed. How much does he plan to pay you then? I was about to explain when he pinned me against the wall. You want money? I'll buy you once in this restroom today. I'll pay you. You're in the flesh trade. You don't care about taking on one more client, do you? I could hear the gnashing of teeth in Ethan Cole's voice. He didn't care if someone walked in. He took me forcefully in that environment. I bit my lip, not daring to make a sound, letting Ethan Cole humiliate me endlessly. He had told me not to look for him, but it was okay for him to humiliate me like this. In his eyes, was I really a prostitute who would sleep with any man? It turned out, I also wanted respect. I wanted Ethan Cole's respect. You too. Ethan wasn't finished when a woman entering the restroom screamed in terror. The woman was none other than his fiancée for the day, Isabella Rossi. Her face turned pale when she saw us. With his back to Isabella, Ethan pulled up his clothes, then turned to her and said with a touch of coldness, I ran into a nightclub hostess. Give her $2,000 later. I wasn't finished and her skills are poor. That's not a small amount for what it's worth. Chapter 3. Vicious, a chill pierced my heart. Ignoring how his words had stabbed me with excruciating pain, Ethan Cole walked straight out. Isabella Rossi walked toward me step by step, raised her hand, and slapped me across the face. You shameless bitch, if it weren't my engagement day, I'd have you thrown out in public and stomped to death. I touched my burning cheek. For some reason, even though it was our first meeting, I felt a natural dislike for Isabella. I should have been apologizing to her, but the words that came out of my mouth were surprisingly vicious. Your man runs off to the restroom to fool around with a whore during his own engagement party. Doesn't that make you even worse than a whore? Isabella tried to hit me again, but I didn't give her the chance. I grabbed her wrist, squeezed it tight, and with a ferocity born of deep-seated hatred, I flung her away. She stumbled backward and fell onto the toilet. As I left, I could still hear her cursing, but I felt no guilt. When Julian Croft saw me walk back into the banquet hall, he rushed over and grabbed my hand. Lily, where did you go? Why did Ethan Cole leave right after you? Did you run into him? You two have already broken up. Does he still want to bother you? My relationship with Julian wasn't deep. 2 years ago, he used to request me to sing with him often. After I got with Ethan, he disappeared. Now, I was just pretending to be his girlfriend, but he sounded as if he was jealous of Ethan. I didn't see him. Julian breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. He pulled 2 cards from his wallet, a debit card and a credit card. Lily, there are $5 million in the debit card. The credit card has a monthly limit of $1 million. If it's not enough, I'll give you more. From now on, you're my woman, understand? I was startled and tried to push the cards back to him. Mr. Croft, we agreed, it's only for today. Julian wouldn't take the cards. Lily, does it matter who you're with? I just don't want to be beaten to the punch by anyone again. Since Ethan Cole has already cut ties with you, you can accept me. I was just a prostitute, and Ethan's contract with me was over. Yet I still felt like I was his woman, that I should remain faithful to him. Suddenly, Ethan Cole walked over and grabbed my wrist. He snatched the cards from my hand and threw them on the floor. Julian Croft, I don't think you understand. A woman I, Ethan Cole, have slept with, even if I'm done with her, is not for you to touch. The private grudge between Ethan and Julian must have been deep. The way they looked at each other was filled with hatred. Julian smirked. Isn't Mr. Cole getting engaged? What's this? Getting tangled up with another woman at your own engagement party doesn't look too good, does it? But Ethan was arrogant. When I, Ethan Cole, decide to keep a mistress, is it up to others to say whether it looks good or not? My heart was pounding. This wasn't a normal day. Hong Kong's elite were all here. What Ethan said was a clear slap in the face to the bride's side. He might not have cared, but the look Isabella was giving me was one of wanting to eat me alive. I wanted to find a place to hide, but there was nowhere to go. Isabella rushed over and started tearing at my clothes. You nightclub hostess, what right do you have to ruin my engagement party seeing 2 of Hong Kong's top young talents fighting over you? Are you happy? I was pushed onto a dining table, and the engagement banquet instantly descended into chaos. Isabella grabbed a fork and lunged at my face. Let's see if any man will still fight over you when you don't have this face anymore. Ethan grabbed the fork with one hand, while Julian seized Isabella's shoulder. Ethan's eyes, now filled with anger, stared at Isabella. Bella, stop messing around. Isabella started to cry. How am I messing around? You were in the restroom with her doing that, and you even wanted me to pay her. What do you take me for? She's just a prostitute. The veins in Ethan's eyes turned red. Isabella, you are not to speak to her like that. My shoulders began to tremble, and a thick, sour feeling flowed through my nose. When someone else called me a prostitute, Ethan Cole had defended me. Chapter 4. The doomed child. I had offended Isabella, and by extension, Ethan's mother. They found my address and my son, Leo. Isabella was Eleanor Cole's adopted daughter. Eleanor was marrying her adopted daughter to her own son, making their bond even closer. I had ruined Isabella's engagement party, and Eleanor Cole was not going to let me get away with it. Sue Lee, that heart for your son, do you still want it or not? I nearly collapsed to the floor. What are you trying to do? Eleanor Cole looked at me with extreme disgust, not even deigning to look me in the eye. That doomed child of yours, if I were to tamper with his heart, do you think the transplant could possibly succeed? Leo is not a doomed child, I shouted emotionally. Leo, the son I was willing to work as a hostess to save, would be like any normal child. He would be able to leave that glass room, go to school, get married, and have children of his own. Eleanor sneered at me. Not a doomed child. With a congenital heart defect, isn't all his suffering your fault as a mother? Who knows which bastard you had him with? You live such a promiscuous life. Was he conceived when you were drunk or high on drugs, fooling around? Look, this is all your own doing. I trembled all over, provoked by Eleanor's words. I knew I was a prostitute, but I couldn't remember my private life being promiscuous. I hadn't gone out with any man, I had just given birth to a son. It seemed I hadn't done anything shameful, but I couldn't remember. I only remembered being a prostitute with a son whose father was unknown. I didn't know where I came from or where I was going. The reason I fought so hard to save my pitiful Leo was because it felt like besides him, I had nothing else in this world. Without him, I would be completely disconnected from the world. I might never find my origins, never find my destination. I didn't dare use Leo to fight them. He was my only bloodline. What do you want? Leave Hong Kong and take that doomed son of yours with you. He needs surgery. He has to stay in a sterile ICU. I'll arrange for his surgery as soon as possible. You don't need to worry about the money. You won't tamper with anything. The moment the surgery is successful, you take that doomed child and get lost. Eleanor was trembling with anger just like me. Her hatred for me seemed etched into her bones. Otherwise, Eleanor's face moved close to mine. I'll have that doomed child's chest cut open and let you see what he looks like without a beating heart. A bone-chilling cold washed over me, and a cold sweat beaded from head to toe. Fine, Julian Croft wouldn't let me go. I was terrified he would cause trouble for me and deliberately avoided him, which only angered him. The week before my son's surgery, I stayed at the hospital every day, consulting with experts. With only 3 days left until the operation, I was exhausted. I decided to take a taxi home from the hospital. I was so tired that I fell asleep the moment I collapsed onto the sofa. But when I woke up, I was in bed with Julian Croft. He was holding me, kissing me. "Lily, from now on, you're with me, understand?" I pushed him away, trembling with fear. "What are you doing?" Julian took out his phone. "I recorded what we did last night. Do you want to see it? If you don't agree to be with me, I'll upload the video online." I felt like I was going crazy. I was a prostitute, yet the thought of sleeping with a man other than Ethan Cole was something I couldn't accept. Flashes of images shot through my mind, giving me a splitting headache. I jumped out of bed. It wasn't my home. I threw on my clothes and fled in panic. When I got home, I desperately showered. I couldn't remember anything from the night before. I had gone home, so why was I in a hotel? Julian must have been lying to me. I had just stepped out of the bathroom when the door to my apartment was thrown open, then kicked shut by Ethan Cole. His eyes were bloodshot, and he stormed towards me, radiating fury. I instinctively tried to hide, but he grabbed my hair, ripped the towel from my body, and slammed me against the wall. "What? You're so fucking desperate, so starved for dick, are you?" Chapter 5. Lies. My head buzzed from the impact, and I burst into tears. Ethan let go. Ethan Cole was like a wild beast, completely out of his mind. "You fucking want it, I'll give it to you. Who the fuck told you to be such a cheap tramp and offer yourself up for Julian Croft to screw?" He cursed at me as if to vent, each word filthier and crueler than the last. I was already crying too hard to make a sound. "Ethan, believe me, I didn't betray you. I don't know what happened yesterday. When I woke up, it was already like that. I was a prostitute, and I had promised Eleanor Cole I would stay away from Ethan, yet all I could think about was not betraying him. The feeling seemed etched into my very bones. I begged for mercy, but Ethan Cole wouldn't listen to my explanation. He had seen the video of me and Julian together. I couldn't believe it. I refused to believe it. Ethan Cole clamped my chin tightly and played the video on his phone for me to see. Before I saw the video, I still believed it was all a lie Julian had fabricated to get me. But when I saw the video, all the nerves in my brain began to knot together, and my head throbbed with an insane pain. I clutched my hair, pushed his phone away, and shoved him away like a madwoman. I couldn't believe this was real. I rushed into the kitchen, grabbed a cleaver, and when I looked at the naked man standing in the room, it wasn't Ethan, but Julian. I charged at him with the knife, slashing and crying, "I hate you, I hate you." The knife was snatched from my hand, and a slap brought me to my senses. "Suli, your acting is the best I've ever seen among prostitutes." I stood numbly in the room, tilting my head to look at Ethan Cole. I squinted. The light from the window streamed in, and a beam grazed past his ear, where there seemed to be a crack in time. Through that crack, I saw Ethan's childhood, his adolescence, his entire youth. I saw myself, and I saw Julian. I saw us all as teenagers. I desperately wanted to slip into that crack in time, but as soon as Ethan moved, the beam of light vanished, the crack in time closed, and I couldn't see anything anymore. Panic seized me. I walked over and grabbed Ethan's hand. It wasn't consensual. A woman in the flesh trade tells me her client wasn't consensual. You think I'd believe you? How could I have ever kept a woman like you because of you? My engagement party became the laughingstock of all Hong Kong, and you were fooling around with another man behind my back. Because of me? He said because of me. Was it because he cared about me? He had feelings for me, didn't he? My heart constricted, tighter and tighter, a mix of sourness and pain. Just then my phone rang. I answered it. It was Eleanor Cole's voice. "Suli, remember, your doomed son has 2 days until his surgery. Whether he lives or dies depends on your performance. If you can't get Ethan to leave you, then you can just wait for your son's heart to never reach him." I hung up the phone and looked at Ethan, my heart shattering, a smile on my lips. "You know perfectly well where we met, don't you? This is the life I lead. You shouldn't have such high expectations of me. Besides, it's not my fault. You were the one who told me not to look for you for any reason." Ethan was thoroughly enraged. He threw the knife in his hand towards the door and once again grabbed my hair, his grip tightening at my scalp. "Say that again? Mr. Cole once told me to know my place. I'm just a prostitute. I'll sleep with whoever gives me money. I haven't forgotten, but Mr. Cole himself hasn't he?" My smile was too flippant. A flash of pain crossed Ethan Cole's eyes. He laughed. "Right. I actually forgot you were just a prostitute, and yet I kept seeing you as Shenzhen. How could you be Shenzhen? Shenzhen is long gone from this world. You're just a prostitute. You just look like her." For the first time, I saw tears in Ethan Cole's eyes. For the first time, I heard him say the name Shenzhen. It was the first time I'd heard it, but it felt as if a dagger had been brutally plunged into my heart, and blood was instantly gushing out. Chapter 6. Driven mad by torment, Ethan Cole let go of me, staggering back. "You're a prostitute. I spent 2 years on a prostitute, searching for a shadow of Shenzhen. You're not Shenzhen. You're a whore who'll sleep with anyone for money." As he got dressed, I asked him, "Was I a substitute for 2 years?" "A substitute. No one can ever replace her." I gave a bitter smile. How could I possibly compare myself to the woman he once adored? You could try to forget her and start a new life. Otherwise, if you love so deeply that even a prostitute can make you lose your mind so easily, what will you do in the future? As I was advising him to forget Shenzhen, my own tears wouldn't stop streaming down my face. "My business is none of your concern." Watching Ethan Cole leave, radiating hostility, I felt myself begin to slip into a daze. Fragments of memories, scattered and incomplete, were driving me mad. As for Julian, I deliberately erased him from my memory. Unwilling to acknowledge what had happened, I chose to escape. A call from the hospital brought me back to my senses. Only when I thought of Leo could I be clear-headed. My son was my only connection to this world. I was like a kite in the sky, and he was the string. I didn't know if there was someone holding the other end of the string, keeping me from drifting too far. But Leo's heart was showing signs of rejection. The surgery could not proceed. I was on the verge of frenzy and went to find Alina Cole. She had promised me the surgery would be a success. Unexpectedly, she broke her promise and spewed venom at me. "I told you your son was a doomed child, didn't you believe me? Even God won't let him live." I wanted to tear her apart. "You promised you said you would help me. Haven't I helped you? All the experts for this surgery, the financial gap for the operation, did I not help you with that? You ungrateful woman, you deserve to have your son die. I never thought she would abandon us at a time like this." Ethan was already so angry with me that he wanted nothing more to do with me, hating me enough to kill me. If Alina backed out now, Leo would really die. On my way back to the hospital in a taxi, I shamelessly called Ethan Cole. He didn't answer, so I sent him a text, begging him for help. The message was met with silence. Finally, the call connected. His tone was icy. "Didn't I tell you not to contact me? Ethan, please help me. Please, for the sake of the 2 years I was with you and never caused you any trouble, please help me. I'm truly at a dead end now," I cried into the phone. "Go find Julian Croft. That man is your client now." I couldn't go to Julian. I wanted to make a clean break with him. I wanted no connection to that man, but Ethan's disgust for me was absolute. He was determined not to help. "Goodbye," he said those 2 words and hung up. I couldn't beg him anymore. I was just a substitute. He had made that clear time and time again. Over 2 years, he had paid me well. I called Julian Croft, suppressing the pain rising in my heart. "Julian," his voice was full of surprise. "Lily, you finally called me. I need your help with something. Name it. I'd go through fire and water for you. I have a son who needs heart surgery now. I need a more authoritative doctor, and quickly." Julian was silent on the phone for a long time. Finally, he asked, "Is he Ethan Cole's son? Does he not know?" "He's not his, and he doesn't know about it," I said truthfully. Julian agreed, hung up, and rushed to the hospital. He kept telling me not to worry, that there would be a solution. I waited as he made call after call. After hanging up one, he looked at me gravely. "Lily, this is something Ethan Cole has to be involved in. He has a very close confidant, an authority in cardiac surgery, but that person is in Canada. Without Ethan's intervention, he probably won't come to the country." Chapter 7. Begging him for the first time, I went to Ethan Cole's workplace. The security downstairs wouldn't let me up. I gave the guard a suggestive look. Mr. Cole said last night there was an issue with a mobile transfer. He told me to come get a cash check this morning. The security guard, understanding, didn't stop me. I walked into Ethan's office and closed the door. Ethan, could you please contact Dr. Adrian? He's an authority in the cardiac field. I'm in a desperate situation and I need to ask him to perform surgery on my son. I could no longer hide my son's existence. Ethan, who had been ignoring my presence, suddenly looked up. Your son? I saw the shock in his eyes and took another step forward. He's 2.5. He shot up from his chair, rushed over, and grabbed my throat. How much have you lied to me? I trembled in fear but didn't dare utter a single lie. My son was born with a congenital heart defect. I had no choice. You gave me a lot of money, and I was too scared to tell you the truth. I needed to pay for his treatment. I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't mean to deceive you. I was nearly in tears as I finished. Ethan's grip on my throat tightened, his jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscles working. So all those times you cried in front of me, was it just because you were short on my money to treat your son? My mind went blank. I didn't know what Ethan was thinking. You said it yourself, I'm just a prostitute. When I was with you, I wasn't with anyone else. Why are you so angry? I never neglected you because of my son. I was always available whenever you called. Unexpectedly, my words made Ethan's handsome face flush with anger, the veins on his forehead throbbing. So I really am just a John, right? I was running out of air. He shoved me away. I clutched my neck, gasping and coughing. I was frantic. Ethan, my son's heart, is rejecting the transplant. His chest is open right now. He's not going to make it. I crawled towards him on my knees, grabbing the perfectly creased fabric of his trousers. An uncontrollable sorrow spread through me. Ethan, I don't want to be a hostess. I don't know why I do these things. I don't know who I had a child with. I don't even know why I don't have parents. I have nothing. I only have my son. I can't give up on him. If I don't have him, it's like I have no reason to exist in this world. I'm a person without any mark, Ethan. Even if it's out of pity, let me keep a memento, please, let me keep this connection. I was a person without a mark. I didn't know where I came from or where I was going. My son was my lifeline, my only channel to breathe without suffocating. I looked at Ethan, pathetic and pitiful. He reached out and gripped my shoulders, his god-like face leaning towards me, radiating a murderous aura. I can contact Dr. Adrian, but what about you and Julian Croft? When he asked me what to do, his voice trembled. He hated me, was disgusted by me, but he still asked what to do. I'll make a clean break with him. I'll never have anything to do with him again, I promised. And if I find out you do, I'll die. If I find out, I'll make sure you and your son both die a horrible death. I kowtowed in thanks. Dr. Adrian was a god in the field of cardiac surgery. Hospitals all over the world wanted to hire him, but he only had one pair of hands and couldn't be everywhere. He came to the country because Ethan had once saved his life. Leo's heart surgery was very successful. When he woke up, his eyes opened, glistening with tears. I always had the illusion that Leo's eyes looked like Ethan's. Perhaps it was because I had truly fallen in love with Ethan, so I wished Leo looked like him. Mommy, it doesn't hurt. Don't cry. Leo's speech was still a bit unclear due to his limited contact with the outside world, but he always said these few words very clearly. Because he had said them so many times, Mommy, it doesn't hurt. Don't cry. But I knew he was only 2.5. It hurt so much. I stroked Leo's small hand, forcing back my tears, and smiled. Be a good boy, Leo. You won't have to hurt anymore, okay? The surgery was a success. When you get better, Mommy will take you to school. I took care of Leo for 2 months, so exhausted that my hormones were out of whack. When Leo was finally up and about, my strength gave out and I fainted. When I woke up on a hospital bed, Ethan's cold face was before me. He threw a report at me. You're pregnant. Chapter 8. Pregnant, I'm pregnant. I grabbed Ethan Cole's hand and sat up. Ethan, does Leo have a little playmate now? A cold sneer played on Ethan's lips. Are you sure this child is mine? You spent the whole night rolling around with Julian Croft. He stood up in a fury. I had deliberately erased the incident with Julian from my mind. I shook my head. Nothing happened between me and Julian. Ethan's emotions were no better than mine. He paced back and forth in the hospital room, hands on his hips. Get rid of it. No, this is your child. I clutched my stomach, unwilling to sever the connection between us. His engagement was ruined. If we had a child, there would be a future for us. Mine. Did you and Julian not even use a fucking condom when you were in bed? He once again pulled up the video on his phone and threw it in front of me. I watched it over and over. The more I watched, the more chaotic my mind became. I felt like I was going insane. I held the phone, my eyes filled with tears as I looked at Ethan. Ethan, I was forced. It wasn't consensual, not consensual. Then why don't you take this video and sue Julian Croft for rape? I have Leo with Julian's family background. It would cause a huge scandal. How would Leo be able to face people in the future? Making so many excuses for your own sluttiness? Ethan was convinced I had betrayed him and insisted I have an abortion. I was terrified. My nerves were shot. I couldn't remember what happened with Julian. I was certain I had no relationship with him. I wasn't afraid of Ethan's threats. I thought he was probably worried I would use the child to blackmail him, to try to get something other than money. But how would I dare to blackmail him? I was just a prostitute. I had no right and certainly no capital. When I held Leo, I knew I was a mother. The moment I was away from Leo, I was terrified. I started to fear the night, women in their 40s or 50s, hospitals and doctors. It felt as if a woman in her 40s or 50s was trying to kill me. She ordered bodyguards to tie me up. A top-tier doctor hypnotized me over and over, making me forget my son, making me forget Ethan. I started to become neurotic. I was afraid my mental illness would harm Leo. I only dared to watch him from outside his door, watching him sleep soundly. I began to doubt whether I was a mother with full custodial capacity. I trusted myself less and less. Ethan dragged me to the hospital for an abortion. I was afraid I was going crazy. I wanted to give Leo a sibling so that if I went mad, Leo wouldn't be lonely. At that moment, I couldn't even think about how Leo would survive without me. I ran out of the hospital and ran into Julian. He pulled me into his car and engaged the central lock. I couldn't get out. I frantically grabbed the seatbelt, terrified of him getting closer. I heard you're pregnant. The child must be mine. Lily, have the baby. I will definitely take responsibility. Lily, even though both Ethan and I saw you as Shenzhen, we both know she's not coming back. From now on, Shenzhen is not in my heart, only you. Have the baby. I didn't know who Shenzhen was. She must be my nightmare. Because I looked like Shenzhen and she was dead, so Ethan and Julian transferred all their feelings onto me. So Ethan kept me, and I fell in love with him. So Julian liked me and raped me. I firmly denied it, my eyes wide with vigilance. I have no relationship with you. The person I love is Ethan Cole. Julian's face turned extremely ugly. Ethan Cole, both you and Shenzhen love Ethan Cole. What's so great about him? What he can give you, can't I? He continued, you're not Shenzhen, but when I see you, I just feel like I like you. God let Ethan Cole take my Shenzhen away, so he sent you to save me. Although there have been some twists and turns, you will definitely be mine. After speaking, Julian grabbed my head and kissed me fiercely. I bit him hard, pushed him away, the nerves in my brain feeling like they were about to snap from the pain. In my heart, there was only one person, only one person's outline was distinct and vivid, and that was Ethan Cole. Bang, Julian's car was hit hard. I finally escaped his grasp. The car alarm blared. A man got out of the car behind us. It was Ethan Cole. He was holding a tire iron. He walked over and started smashing Julian's car window. He was like a madman. I tried to unlock the car from the inside, but Julian wouldn't let me. Not only did Ethan Cole steal Shenzhen from me, but he also wants to steal you. This time, I won't let him have his way. If it weren't for him, how would Shenzhen have died and died a terrible death? The words "died a terrible death" made my head explode with pain. A middle-aged woman in her 40s or 50s was grabbing my hair, but calling out Shenzhen's name. Shenzhen, I will make you die a terrible death. Don't even think about touching Ethan Cole in this lifetime. I won't let you touch a single hair on my son's head. You're only fit to be a cheap woman. You're only fit to be a prostitute. I clutched my head, screaming loudly, and slammed my head hard against the passenger side window. Blood flowed down, covering my face. Julian couldn't even hold me back. I couldn't control myself. I kept slamming my head, trying to knock that evil woman out of my mind, trying to get rid of her. Chapter 9. Days outside the car, Ethan Cole stopped smashing the car. Julian shouted my name, Lily, Lily. Eventually, I couldn't hear any outside sounds. I was being driven mad by the flood of images in my mind. Julian unlocked the central locking, the car door was pulled open, and Ethan lifted me out from the passenger seat. He ran, shouting my name, Sue Lee, wake up. I opened my blood-blurred eyes and looked at him weakly. It was as if I saw that crack in time again. Through the crack, I saw his youth. Shenzhen, come on, I'm taking you to do something big today. Shenzhen, stay away from Julian Croft from now on. That kid always looks at you with shifty eyes. I don't think he has good intentions. And you have good intentions? Of course. I gasped for breath, struggling to breathe. I heard Leo calling me mommy. I heard a harsh, arrogant woman calling me a cheap tramp, a slut fit only to be a prostitute. Memories have a taste. Why couldn't I find a single sweet one in mine? It was too bitter, so bitter I couldn't swallow it. I wanted to find that bit of sweetness, but my heart began to ache terribly. I clutched the fabric of Ethan's shirt, my sobs coming in ragged gasps. Ethan, it wasn't consensual. It wasn't, my heart only has you. I'm only willing to accept you. I didn't mean for it to happen. I have no face to live, but Leo is too young. He can't be without me. Leo was really too young. We relied on each other. We were the same kind of people, having nothing but each other. If I were gone, all of Leo's connections to this world would be severed. I couldn't let him experience the pain I had gone through. I hated myself for being tainted, but I still wanted to support Leo, to let him walk step by step into his own life. I had overestimated my own endurance. Before, whenever I thought of Leo, I could withstand anything. But recently, my mental state had become increasingly hazy. I kept flashing back to the video of me waking up in bed with Julian. I couldn't remember what happened with him, but where did the video come from? The more I tried to avoid it, the more it forced its way into my mind. I also began to doubt whose baby was in my belly. Eleanor Cole came to find me, bringing Isabella with her. They beat and kicked me, she cursed me for being cheap. You're just like your mother, both of you are sluts, both sluts, how else do you plan to seduce my son? Huh. That doomed son of yours is already alive, why don't you take him and get lost? When I heard Eleanor mention my mother, a string in my mind suddenly snapped taut. I ignored her beatings and curses and grabbed her wrist. You mentioned my mother? Where do I have a mother? Eleanor Cole laughed maniacally. Sue Lee, you're truly a tragedy, you don't even know who you are. Do you know what you are? You're a whore available to any man, you're a nightclub prostitute. I was clearly a hostess, but I shook my head, sobbing, I'm not, I only ever went out with one client, and that was Ethan. Then where did your son come from? Isn't he just a little bastard from a fling with one of your Johns? No, Leo is not a little bastard. Isabella pushed me away, mimicking Eleanor's harshness. That doomed son of yours is a little bastard. I hated Eleanor Cole with a vengeance. Before, I had begged her not to interfere with my son's surgery, but now I didn't care about anything. Filled with hatred and panic, I scanned the room wildly, rushed to the nightstand, grabbed the lamp, and threw it at Eleanor. Leo is not a little bastard, Isabella tried to help, but I didn't care. I attacked them like a madwoman. It would take 4 or 5 normal people to subdue a crazy person. In my heart, I also wanted to find Leo's father. Maybe if I found his father, Leo wouldn't be so helpless, and I could be free. The more questions I had, the crazier I became, until I saw 2 motionless figures on the floor. I reached out and checked for their breath. They were gone. Chapter 10, heart-wrenching. I was terrified. I was going to jail. What would happen to Leo? One second I was thinking about Leo. The next I was thinking about Shenzhen, about Ethan, about Julian, whom I hated to death. I was crazy. I must have been crazy. Otherwise, why would my mind be in such chaos? I scrambled up from the floor and rushed downstairs. The sky I saw wasn't the sky. It was a place where the sky was invisible, surrounded by towering, barren stone peaks so high they blocked all sunlight. My surroundings were pitch black. Huge boulders were falling from the mountains, about to crush me here. I ran for my life. Someone pulled open a car door. I rushed over, got in the car, and slammed on the gas. As I drove, I called Ethan Cole. I put it on speakerphone and tossed the phone on the dashboard. He picked up, his voice betraying no emotion. I cried out his name, a heart-wrenching scream. Ethan, Ethan, his voice instantly became tense. Sue Lee, what's wrong? What happened? Ethan, I killed 2 people. I can't live anymore, I screamed, my palms and the soles of my feet drenched in sweat. I couldn't let Leo have a mother in prison. I couldn't. Working as a hostess leaves no criminal record. You can move to a new place where no one knows you. But prison is different. Everywhere you go, people will know. My mind was so hazy I couldn't control myself, even as Ethan on the other end of the line kept shouting at me to calm down. Suli listened to me. Shut up, don't say anything. Where are you? I'm coming to find you. I'll handle it. Ethan, I didn't want to betray you. My heart only has you. The first time I saw you, it was like seeing a man I had once loved. I wanted to be close to you. When you asked me to be with you, do you know how happy I was? I needed money, but I was sobbing so hard I couldn't form coherent sentences. I needed money. What could I do? I don't even have a degree. I checked my records. It says I graduated from junior high, but I feel like I know so many things. Ethan, I'm tainted. I'm no longer worthy of being your mistress. I feel so dirty myself. Ethan, do a good deed and help me take care of Leo. Just think of it as charity. Just pretend that Shenzin's soul is in my body, giving you 2 years of comfort. Help me take care of Leo. I'm taking the bastard in my belly to hell with me. Ethan's furious roar was deafening. Su Li, if you dare to do anything, I will definitely chop up your son. I definitely will. I couldn't hear him. My car was already on the overpass. Too many scenes were flashing through my mind. My parents' tragic deaths, me working as a hostess, someone calling me Shenzin, someone calling me Lily, Ethan calling me Su Lei, someone hitting me, someone raping me, someone washing away the birthmark on my back, being hacked until I was a bloody mess. I couldn't bear so many suddenly emerging images. My life was too bitter, too painful. I couldn't endure it for another moment. Before, I had to take large doses of antidepressants every day. It was Leo who kept me going until now. Leo's successful surgery, followed by Julian's rape, became the last straw that broke me. Ethan, I am Shenzin. Leo is your son. You have to take care of him. This is what you owe me. I didn't even know why I said those words. I floored the accelerator and yanked the steering wheel hard to the left. I saw my car plunge off the overpass. I saw the teenage Ethan Cole again. He reached out and pinched my cheek, but called out another person's name. Shenzin, I like you. Pain. Every pore was being pierced by steel needles. My internal organs were shattered when the car crashed to the ground after falling from the overpass. I knew it was over. My painful life had finally come to an end. Chapter 11. Awakening, I didn't know where I was, only that it was pitch black before my eyes. Hard, cold walls surrounded me in what seemed to be a long, endless corridor. I was like a long-distance traveler who, despite all hardships, could never reach the exit. The feeling of despair was suffocating. I felt like I was drowning, the air in my lungs dwindling, becoming so thin that I thought my lungs would burst. I gasped for air, and the fear forced my eyes open. Light flooded my vision, so piercing, so searing. I quickly shut my eyes again. My eyes ached and swelled, and tears streamed down uncontrollably. But I still wanted to open my stinging eyes, a desperate longing, like a moth to a flame, wanting to chase that light. I finally opened my eyes. Before me was a snow-white wall. Droplets flowed slowly into my body. A pungent smell filled my nose, the scent of disinfectant. I turned my head and saw a man lying by my bed. He was asleep. The sunlight from the window cast a golden halo around him. I suddenly felt a warmth that I had long missed in my cold dreams. His chiseled profile was as perfect as a god's, but why was he so thin? There was even a faint stubble on his chin, making him look exhausted. A pain shot through my heart. Although I didn't know who he was, I couldn't understand why my heart ached so much. I raised my still weak and sore hand, wanting to smooth the frown on his brow, even in his sleep. The moment my hand touched his forehead, his eyes snapped open. I froze. His eyes, deep and cold like a winter pool, were fixed on me. For a moment, I was mesmerized. Su Lei, you're finally awake, do you know? You've been in a coma for 3 months. His voice was tired, with a hint of barely perceptible relief, his eyes filled with joy. Suddenly, those seemingly distant memories flashed before my eyes like a movie. I seemed to have driven off an overpass. It hurt so much. My heart clenched tightly, and a bloody mist veiled my stinging eyes. Leo, Shenzin, the teenage Ethan Cole. I looked at the somewhat somber, mature man before me and remembered the bright, fiery teenager from my youth. Their faces gradually overlapped. I clutched my head as a torrent of chaotic memories rushed towards me, overwhelming me. Why did I have these memories? I tried to piece them together. But each fragment was like an incomplete puzzle piece. They all seemed related, yet I couldn't form a complete picture. My head throbbed with unbearable pain. My heart sank bit by bit, a sharp pain surging from my mind. I was like a dying fish out of water, so parched I could barely make a sound. A pair of warm, large hands covered my temples, and a masculine scent filled my nostrils. It was a familiar and reassuring scent. I remembered it was Ethan Cole. Sule, don't think about it. The man's voice was commanding and dominant. I looked into the man's eyes, and my chaotic thoughts gradually returned. Leo, where is my Leo? Where is my Leo? I calmed down, and remembering my poor Leo, asked anxiously. He's fine, recovering very quickly. I've arranged for people to take care of him. As long as you cooperate with the treatment, you can recover sooner and see your son. Ethan Cole's voice was somewhat coaxing, as if he were speaking to a child. Chapter 12. I didn't kill anyone, but I had killed people, Ethan. I killed people, I said with difficulty, an endless sorrow spreading in my heart. Ethan Cole held my shoulders, his voice gentle. Sue Lee, calm down and listen to me. You didn't kill anyone. You just have severe depression and schizophrenia. Be good, and I will get you cured. His voice was as rich as fine wine, and under his soothing words, I felt as if I were drunk. I drifted off to sleep. The man's faint scent of tobacco mixed with the disinfectant-filled air, making me feel at ease. I didn't know how long I slept. When I woke up, Ethan was still there. He helped me eat and played soft music for me. I enjoyed his care, forgetting all the troubles of the world. If being sick meant Ethan would always be like this with me, I wished I could stay sick forever. Even if the smell of disinfectant made me want to vomit, I would gladly endure it. One day, after taking my medicine, I was drowsily sleeping when the door creaked open. I turned my head to look. It was Julian Croft. Those terrifying, bloody memories roared through my mind like a roller coaster. He raped me. He made me betray Ethan Cole. I hated him, and I hated myself. It felt like a string in my brain snapped. I clutched my head in pain, wanting to rip those horrible memories out by the roots. It hurt too much. I couldn't bear it. Sule, don't be afraid. I'm here. Ethan, who had been by my side all along, held me. The familiar, reassuring scent enveloped me. The feeling was so ancient it seemed to swirl up from the deepest parts of my memory, yet it also dissipated into the air. I gradually calmed down. Ethan Cole, you son of a bitch, hiding Lily here. What are you trying to do? Julian's voice drifted over. Ethan's face was ashen as he looked at Julian. Probably because they were in a hospital and he needed to restrain himself. His voice seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. But the bloodthirsty glint in his eyes couldn't suppress his rage. You bastard. Croft, you better get out of here otherwise. I'll settle the score for what you did to Sule. With interest, Julian looked at me, unwilling to give up. Lily, don't be afraid. I'll take you out of here. But I just stared at Julian fiercely. This was my enemy. I wanted to kill him. Julian looked at me in disbelief, a hurt expression in his eyes. Ethan turned back to give me a reassuring look, then grabbed Julian and started to drag him out the door. I heard the sound of arguing outside, intermittent and unclear, soon followed by the sounds of a fight. Was Ethan fighting with Julian for me? My mind, which had been thrown into chaos by Julian's arrival, gradually settled down again. I didn't get up to look. I knew Julian was no match for Ethan. I was so certain, as if I had known this outcome long ago. The noise outside quickly subsided. Ethan walked in, his hair slightly disheveled, but it didn't affect his charisma at all. His left hand rubbed his clenched right fist, and he shook it out. His breathing was heavier than before, as if he had just been running. He adjusted my pillow. Go back to sleep. I started to feel drowsy again, feeling the man's gaze like a warm sun, enveloping me, making me not want to wake up, just like the warm sunlight. Chapter 13. I won, you whore, still pretending to be asleep. You had so much strength when you were hitting us, and now you're acting all weak. A sharp, harsh female voice came, and I opened my eyes. It was Alina Cole, the familiar, proud face, the words laced with poison. It was her. She really wasn't dead. I was so relieved. You tramp, you still have the nerve to smile. Are you doing this on purpose? Seducing my son to stay with you day after day? Are you deliberately smiling for me to see? My lack of response clearly enraged Alina Cole, and her expression became even more frantic. I really didn't. I tried to explain, but my brain was stiff and my speech was slow. You tramp still playing pitiful. My son isn't here right now. Who are you putting on a show for? I'm warning you, if you don't leave Ethan, I'll stop your medication. You're already half crazy. Without your medicine, you'll be a complete lunatic. With a crazy mother like you, I'd like to see if that little bastard still has the face to go out. Eleanor's curses grew more and more agitated, and the words became filthier. Mom, what are you doing here? Didn't I tell you not to bother Sule? The door was pushed open, and Ethan Cole walked in. He strode quickly, standing in front of me as if to shield me from 1,000 armies. I clutched the corner of Ethan's shirt, like grabbing onto a last lifeline. The look Eleanor gave me grew even darker, as if sharp arrows were shooting at me from her eyes. I trembled with fear. Ethan held my hand. I peeked up and could only see his broad back, which completely blocked the terrifying gaze. Ethan, I'm your mother. Are you really going to treat me like this for that little tramp? Don't you know that because of this little tramp, our family is about to become the laughingstock of the whole city? Laughingstock? Since when has the Cole family cared about such things? Ethan, are you really going to fight me to the end for this woman? Mom, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. Aren't you the one forcing me to fight you? You. Don't regret it. Eleanor's eyes were filled with hatred, like daggers, staring at me without blinking, as if the daggers in her eyes would fly at me in the next second. I cowered timidly to the side. The room fell into silence. Ethan, it's stuffy in the room, I said in a small voice. Ethan helped me up and took me to the small garden downstairs at the hospital. The sun was beautiful, and the fresh air in the garden filled my lungs. I missed Leo. I wanted to see him. I want to be discharged. Leo will be lonely without my care and company. Ethan said, Leo is fine. As long as you take your medicine and get better, you can see him. Right, take medicine. I was sick. My mind was sometimes clear, sometimes hazy. I couldn't control my emotions. I couldn't even fully remember Ethan. Sometimes I would forget him and ask who he was. Sometimes after taking the medicine, I would feel more and more pain. Those chaotic images I wanted to suppress challenged my limits again and again. Shenzhen, we have to be together forever. The young man's eyes were bright and soaring, so hot they seemed to melt me. Shenzhen, I'm going to duel Ethan Cole. Whoever wins gets to date you. A teenage Julian was just as arrogant. What did the woman who drove these two men so wild look like? I wanted to see. I saw the teenage Shenzhen look in the mirror. That girl's face was so bright, as beautiful and elegant as the most wonderful flower blooming in March. The girl's face was very similar to mine. What surprised me wasn't the similarity, but the familiar feeling. Chapter 14. The substitute. Why was this face so familiar to me? This familiarity even surpassed that of my own face, as if I had spent a very long time with her. But I searched my memories desperately. How could a tainted person like me have known such a beautiful young girl? There was no comparison between me and this girl. I was like a poisonous insect full of bacteria from the dark, damp underground, while she was a beautiful, dew-like girl. This realization filled me with self-loathing. My head was about to explode, and that string in my mind suddenly snapped again. I was like an out-of-control beast, rampaging wildly. I picked up the medicine bottle and threw it fiercely, sweeping everything off the cabinet next to the hospital bed. Miss Sue, you can't do this. An anxious female voice sounded beside my ear, but I couldn't hear it. Someone grabbed me from behind, holding me tightly, and I couldn't move. I struggled violently, trying to break free. Sue Lee, calm down, be quiet, you can do it. I'm Ethan, I'll always be with you. A low, powerful voice echoed in my ear. The bloody mist before my eyes gradually dissipated, and I finally saw Ethan Cole's face clearly. I stopped struggling and reached up to touch his face. My heart gradually calmed down. The scent of his body made me feel at ease and content. The longer I took the medicine, the more frequently I lost control of my emotions. Sometimes I felt like I would completely lose control, but Ethan could always calm me down. When I was calm, I thought of that elegant young girl and was filled with curiosity. I knew she was the woman Ethan cherished in his heart. Because of this woman, he took such good care of me, a prostitute he looked down on just because I looked like her. Ethan, Shenzhen, and I look very much alike, don't we? You're so good to me. Is it because you see me as her substitute? I was really curious and couldn't help but ask Ethan. Upon hearing the name, Shenzhen, Ethan's eyes, as deep as a cold pond, clearly wavered for a moment before returning to their usual expression, almost imperceptibly. When we first met, it was true. You two look so much alike. But later, I felt that I wasn't treating you as a substitute, but that I felt you were Shenzhen. Both of you are my women. Perhaps because being Shenzhen was a step up for me, I didn't feel any anger at being a substitute. Ethan, since you feel that I am Shenzhen, can you tell me about you and her? I was really curious about that beautiful, do-like girl. Ethan gave me a deep look, as if he had 1,000 words to say, but in the end, it all turned into a faint, almost inaudible sigh. He turned around, handed me the medicine. Be good, take your medicine when you're completely better, I'll tell you. I obediently took the medicine. I knew that Ethan might just be humoring me at this moment, but even being humored was enough for me. Under Ethan's care and companionship, my body gradually recovered. Although my body was better, I knew my mind was still sick. After taking the medicine, I would still become hysterical, and those bizarre scenes would still dance before me like a merry-go-round. Chapter 15. The Mental Hospital. Su Lei, your body has recovered, but you still need treatment. I want to take you to a mental hospital for treatment. Of course, going to a mental hospital for treatment doesn't mean you're a lunatic. It's because you have mental health issues. Your schizophrenia requires systematic treatment. Ethan Cole looked at me, his tone hesitant and cautious. I knew he was afraid I wouldn't be able to accept it, so I nodded quickly. Ethan, I'll listen to you. As long as you're by my side, I'll listen to whatever you say. As long as Ethan was there, I was willing to do anything. Ethan was a little surprised, but more than that, he was relieved. Soon, Ethan helped me with the transfer procedures. The day before going to the mental hospital, I was packing my things, feeling a little anxious. Although I had agreed to go, the thought of that different kind of place still made me hesitate. Ethan seemed to sense my worry and took me out. When we arrived at the entrance of the amusement park, I saw Leo, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. My heart seemed to come alive again. Mommy, Mommy, Leo called out repeatedly as he ran towards me. His cheeks were rosy. I hugged him tightly. He seemed to have gained some weight, not as light as before. It seemed Ethan had really taken good care of him. Leo, let Uncle hold you. Mommy's body isn't fully recovered yet, Ethan said softly, looking at us. Leo quickly opened his arms and reached towards Ethan. Ethan skillfully picked up Leo, who giggled in his arms. Tears welled up in my eyes. I squeezed my palms tightly, forcing the tears back. Looking at Leo being held by Ethan, his features were indeed very similar to Ethan's. At this moment, I felt as if Leo was Ethan's son, and we were a happy family of 3. After a day of playing, I saw that Leo was well taken care of by the people Ethan had arranged, so I went with him to the mental hospital with peace of mind. The mental hospital was not as scary as I had imagined. The ward I went to was no different from a regular hospital. The corridors were even quieter than in a regular hospital. I gradually relaxed. Although Ethan couldn't be with me every moment like before, he came to the hospital every day to see me, take care of me, and tell me funny stories about Leo's life. I also obediently took my medicine. After taking the medicine, the messy images would appear more and more. There were images of Ethan fighting with several thugs to protect me. I held the bruised and battered Ethan and cried my heart out, while he just smiled and wiped my tears. Shenzhen, don't be afraid, I'm here, it's okay. Ethan comforted me softly. Ethan called me Shenzhen. How could I be Shenzhen? My head hurt so much it felt like it was about to explode. I remembered what my doctor told me. Su Li, don't be afraid of those memories. Try to embrace them, to understand them, to control them. I no longer threw things around, no longer felt scared and manic. For Leo and Ethan, I thought I could overcome these illusions, I could control them. That night I slept very soundly. The air was very quiet. But the repeated calls of Shenzhen surprised me. Who was calling me Shenzhen again? I wanted to say goodbye to those illusions. I wanted to tell people I'm not Shenzhen. But before my eyes appeared Ethan, the bright and passionate teenage Ethan. Ethan held my hand, and we went to the amusement park. On the roller coaster, I nervously gripped Ethan's hand tightly. Shenzhen, don't be afraid, I'm here. He squeezed my hand back, and my heart strangely calmed down. Ethan also called me Shenzhen. Chapter 16. I am Shenzhen. Before me appeared the teenage version of Julian Croft. Looking at him like this, I didn't seem to feel fear or disgust. He sat dejectedly in a corner, with a crimson stain on his leg. I walked over and bandaged his wound. He seemed to be in a lot of pain, but silently gritted his teeth and endured it. Shenzhen, since you took care of me this time, you have to take care of me for the rest of your life. Julian also called me Shenzhen. The scene shifted. I seemed to have arrived in a dark basement. The basement was dark and damp, filled with various medical instruments. I hated these instruments and the smell of disinfectant. Suddenly, I was forcefully held down by several people in white coats and masks. I screamed in fear, but I was still held down firmly. A cold scalpel touched my cheek, so cold and painful. I trembled. Before I could recover, a red-hot branding iron was pressed against my throat. I couldn't even scream. I was in so much pain I felt like I was dying. I opened my eyes, gasping for breath. I touched my throat, where it still felt like it was burning. I stumbled to my feet, turned on the light. In the mirror, my face was unscarred, just covered in sweat. I drank a lot of water before the burning sensation in my throat subsided. Was I dreaming just now? In my dream, I was the Shenzhen I had been so curious about. I had plastic surgery, my throat was burned. I had no memory of these things, but why were these feelings so clear? So clear that an idea I didn't dare to think of popped into my head. I, Su Li, am Shenzhen. Yes, I am Shenzhen. I was forced to have plastic surgery. My throat was burned, and my memory was erased. I stayed alone for a long, long time before I could digest this information. But who was so cruel as to do this to me? If I told Ethan that I was Shenzhen, he would probably think I was getting crazier. I think I need time to prove that I am Shenzhen, not just because I think so. I became more active in my treatment, taking my medicine on time. I knew that only by getting better as soon as possible could I find more clear memories. My emotions became more and more stable, and my self-control got better and better. Those chaotic memories became more frequent. Not only was I no longer afraid, but I hoped they would invade my mind more often, so I could remember what happened faster. Ethan still came to see me often. Every time he met with the doctor, his usually furrowed brow would relax a little. I knew my condition was getting better, which was what I expected. One day, the doctor and Ethan came to my room together. I was a little surprised. Usually, Ethan met with the doctor alone. Miss Su, after 3 months of treatment, I believe your condition has improved significantly. At present, conventional treatment is no longer very helpful for you. During the treatment, I found that you have a very unusual memory impairment, which is also the main cause of your schizophrenia. Therefore, I propose to conduct deep hypnosis therapy to find the root of your illness, the doctor said, looking at me with encouraging eyes. Su Li, the doctor has also talked to me. Deep hypnosis has side effects. Why don't we just leave the hospital? You're fine now, you just don't remember the past, which is not a big deal, right? Ethan also looked at me, his brow furrowed, his tone a little uncertain. He was probably afraid that I, having just returned to normal, might go crazy again if I underwent deep hypnosis. But I had a reason to undergo the treatment. I had to retrieve those chaotic memories. Who did this to me? Whose child is Leo? These 2 questions were too important to me. It's okay, I believe I won't have any side effects. As soon as the deep hypnosis is over, I'll be discharged. I looked at Ethan, full of pleading. Chapter 17. Unforgettable. Ethan Cole hesitated for a moment, then, under my gaze, finally nodded lightly. The deep hypnosis began shortly after. The doctor led me to a very simple and spacious room and gestured for me to lie down on a chaise lounge. I did as I was told. The doctor had been treating me for 3 months, and I trusted him. The lounge was very comfortable. The warm, orange light above my head made me feel drowsy. You are standing before an endless golden wheat field. There is someone you most want to see. He is smiling at you, holding out his hand. The person holding out his hand to me was the teenage Ethan Cole, as bright and passionate as ever, a fiery youth. We ran through the golden wheat fields, chasing each other. Shenzhen, hurry up or we'll miss the last bus back, the boy said urgently. He grabbed my hand, and we ran with all our might, finally catching the last bus back to the city just in the nick of time. We stood on the bus, gasping for breath, then looked at each other and burst out laughing. That was the teenage me and Ethan. We had gone on an outing to the countryside alone and almost missed the last bus back. It was also that time that Ethan officially confessed his feelings for me. At that moment, I felt like the happiest person in the world. I knew I was Shenzhen. The woman Ethan Cole could never forget. Why did I become a prostitute, a person I myself despised? I finally understood why. Because someone wanted me to be like this. It turns out that when a person hates another, their loathing can reach a point of utter depravity. What is the name of that most important person? How did you two separate? What happened? The doctor's low voice sounded in my ear again, and I opened my eyes. The light above was still a faint orange, but it was enough to illuminate the entire space so clearly. I was no longer sleepy. My world suddenly felt as if a thin veil that had been covering my eyes had been lifted, and everything became clear. I was no longer the Su Lei who would fly into a hysterical rage over the smallest thing. I was Shenzhen, a woman who needed revenge. I couldn't be impulsive. I needed to be calm so as not to have suffered those years of inhuman torture in vain. "You're awake. How do you feel?" the doctor asked, looking at me with a sense of frustration and worry. I looked at him and nodded. "I don't feel bad." I was fine, but it was something I couldn't tell anyone else. The door to the treatment room opened. I stood up, feeling both light and heavy. Light because I finally knew who I was. Heavy because of the devastation I had endured and the truth I would have to continue to bear. Ethan Cole's eyes, usually calm and composed even in the face of a crisis, showed a trace of panic when he saw me. "Su Li, are you okay?" "I'm fine, let's go." I didn't want to stay any longer. I had too much to think about. "Mr. Cole, I'm sorry, the hypnosis failed." Miss Su refused to say anything. "Fortunately, she seems to be fine," the doctor said with some regret. Ethan, however, did not seem as disappointed as the doctor. After leading me out of the treatment room, he even seemed happy as he comforted me, saying that everything would slowly get better. He probably thought that as long as I had no side effects and could be like a normal person, it was a blessing. Why bother searching for the memories of a prostitute with only a junior high education? They were probably just awful and sad memories anyway. Ethan quickly arranged for my discharge and took me to his private villa. Leo was there waiting for me. When I saw my son, tears streamed down my face. It had been almost 3 months since Leo and I had last seen each other. He had grown taller and bigger. Compared to the days when I had to hide with him, he was now obviously more cheerful and healthier. "Su Li, don't cry. Take Leo inside. I'll arrange for people to take care of you both," Ethan said with some sympathy. I nodded and carried Leo back to the room. Chapter 18. We were so in love as he had promised. Ethan Cole arranged for professional maids to take care of us. I also noticed bodyguards patrolling the courtyard where we lived. Life became exceptionally peaceful and serene. I finally no longer had to work in a complicated place like a nightclub. Leo's health was also very good. Although Ethan was busy with work from morning till night, he would try his best to have dinner with me. Time stretched on, and life was simple and beautiful. If nothing had happened, Ethan and I should have been living so happily. If it weren't for Alina Cole, how could I have had such an unbearable past? Ethan and I were so in love once, but it was all ruthlessly destroyed by Alina Cole. She forced me to have plastic surgery, burned my throat and the birthmark on my body. She made me unrecognizable. Even after spending several years with me, Ethan didn't recognize me as the woman he loved. Even I myself, brainwashed by Alina and with my memories erased, didn't recognize myself, thinking I was a dirty prostitute. My memory was filled with only darkness and humility. Those bright and beautiful pasts were replaced by her one by one. How could I not hate her? She used such a dark method to turn me into the kind of person I most didn't want to be. If I hadn't met Ethan, I might never have remembered all this. Remembering those pasts, those dark lives, I felt the blood in my body boil and burn. But my expression remained as calm as ever. I knew now was not the time. I had no evidence to prove that I was Shenzhen, let alone that it was Alina Cole who made me like this. If I acted rashly, Alina Cole had a myriad of ways to deal with me. At that time, whether Ethan would believe me, a prostitute in his eyes, or his own mother, I had no confidence. To deal with Alina Cole now, I had to find evidence and strike a fatal blow. Otherwise, not only would my revenge fail, but Leo might also be in danger. I couldn't afford to gamble, but I could afford to wait. I just had to wait for her to show a flaw, find the evidence. The suffering I endured would not be in vain. I looked at Ethan, this man I loved most, this man who still knew nothing. I knew I could only pretend not to know anything. It was Saturday, and Ethan was having breakfast with me and Leo. Leo was very happy. "Leo, how about Uncle takes you and Mommy out to play today?" Ethan suddenly asked, looking at Leo. "Yeah, really? That's great, Uncle. Leo has missed you so much lately. You're never home," Leo said in his childish voice. Ethan and I took Leo to the mall. As we were going upstairs at the turn of the staircase, a voice calling Shen Zin made me freeze. It was Ethan beside me. His tone was filled with incredulous joy. I followed his captivated gaze forward. In front of me was a person who looked exactly like me. No, to be precise, she looked exactly like I did before the plastic surgery. No wonder Ethan would lose control and call her Shen Zin. When Shen Zin looked at me, that familiar feeling of disgust washed over me. That look as if she were proudly declaring her victory to me. This feeling was too familiar. Only one person would give me this feeling. I knew this, Shen Zin, was Isabella Rossi. Isabella got plastic surgery to look like Shen Zin. Chapter 19. The buffoon. No wonder, when I saw a face identical to my own from the past, I felt no sense of closeness, only disgust. For a woman to go so far as to change her entire appearance to match the woman her beloved man loved, just to please him. What a great and selfless love. I looked at Shen Zin coldly, finding her as laughable as a buffoon. Perhaps it was the disdainful curl of my lips that made the man beside, Shen Zin, Julian Croft, feel a flicker of surprise. He looked at me and Ethan with a victor's posture, wrapping his arm around Shen Zin's shoulder. "Shen Zin, let's go, those are irrelevant people." Julian's tone was as smug and arrogant as could be. I immediately felt the breathing of the man beside me, Ethan Cole, become ragged. The veins on his temples began to bulge. "Julian Croft, are you fucking looking to die? You're the irrelevant one. You dare to meddle in my business with Shen Zin. Shen Zin, come with me." Ethan strode over, grabbed Shen Zin directly and tried to pull her away. Julian held onto Shen Zin's other hand, staring at Ethan without backing down. "You bastard, Cole, you still want to take Shen Zin away. She's mine, get lost." For a moment, Ethan and Julian were at a standstill, the tension between them so strong that passers-by didn't dare to approach. I watched the two men, like fighting cocks, with a faint, cold smile. I was curious to see how this Shen Zin would continue her act. I had no proof that I was Shen Zin now, so let's see this. Shen Zin, expose her own flaws. "Ah, you too, stop it, I'm getting dizzy." Shen Zin rubbed her temples and said weakly. Both men simultaneously let go of Shen Zin and looked at her with concern. "Shen Zin, what's wrong? Are you better? I'm your Ethan, don't you remember? Did Julian threaten you? Tell me, I'll kill him," Ethan asked anxiously. His eyes were filled with the Shen Zin in front of him. He had long forgotten my existence. "My Ethan, but I don't know you, and Julian didn't threaten me. I just have amnesia. I've forgotten everything from the past. I met Julian, he said I was his girlfriend and was very good to me, but why did another you appear? Who am I?" Shen Zin pressed her temples, pretending to have a headache and not remember. "Shen Zin, I'm Ethan, the man you love most. How could you not remember me?" Ethan held Shen Zin's face, forcing her to look at him, his tone urgent and frantic. Ethan was actually so frantic. This was a crowded mall, and he seemed to completely disregard the stares of others. My heart was both bitter and gratified. Gratified because just seeing someone who looked exactly like me could make Ethan lose control like this, which showed that his feelings for me were as strong as ever, unchanged. Bitter because his real, Shen Zin, couldn't tell him the truth and could only watch from the sidelines. "I'm sorry, I really can't remember. I think if I could know my past, maybe I could remember the people I knew," Shen Zin said apologetically. "Shen Zin, I'll tell you. I'll tell you whatever you want to know," Julian said eagerly, holding Shen Zin's hand. "Shen Zin, come with me, I'll tell you everything." Ethan didn't even look at Julian, just dragged Shen Zin downstairs. Julian, unwilling to give up, tried to grab Shen Zin again. I walked over and stopped Julian. "Julian, let them go. The fake can't be real and the real can't be fake." Julian looked at me blankly. Clearly, he didn't know Shen Zin was an imposter and didn't understand my words. Watching Ethan take Shenzhen away, Julian said to me, "Lily, Shenzhen is back. I know I can't win against Ethan Cole. Of course, you're fine now too. Why don't you consider the two of us who are left over getting together?" "What, you don't mind my son?" I asked with a smile. "Since Ethan Cole doesn't mind, I naturally won't either," Julian said with a grin. I was stunned. I hadn't thought about this question before. Perhaps I was subconsciously avoiding the issue of Leo's biological father. Now it was time to face it. Who was Leo's father? I needed to know. Chapter 20. Jealous of myself, I bought a few outfits for Leo and then returned to Ethan Cole's villa. When I opened the door, I saw Ethan in the living room, holding Shenzhen's hand and seemingly talking about something, his face full of gentle affection as he looked at her, so focused and mesmerized. It was an expression I had never seen on him since I became Sule. I scoffed inwardly and, without looking at them again, started to take Leo upstairs. However, Shenzhen clearly had no intention of ignoring me as I was ignoring them. "Ah," Shenzhen suddenly cried out, clutching her head with both hands. "Shenzhen, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" Ethan asked nervously. "I'm not well, my head hurts so much," Shenzhen said, weak and frail. She leaned into Ethan's embrace, and outside of his line of sight, she looked at me with a faint, knowing smile in her eyes. There was no trace of discomfort at all. "Shenzhen, I'll take you to the hospital." "Just hold on," Ethan said, about to pick her up. "It's okay, I'll be fine after a little rest," Shenzhen said, her hands draped around Ethan's neck, as fragile as a flower battered by a storm. "Okay, Shenzhen, I'll carry you upstairs to rest." Ethan's voice was full of concern. He picked her up and turned to walk towards us. Ethan was a bit taken aback when he saw me holding Leo. Perhaps he had been so engrossed in his conversation with Shenzhen when we came in that he hadn't noticed us. Seeing us suddenly was a surprise. "Brother Ethan, who is this?" Shenzhen asked, looking at us with a probing tone. I looked at Ethan, curious to see how he would answer. Ethan hesitated for a moment. "This is a friend of mine. She has nowhere to stay for the time being, so she's staying at my place for a while." When Ethan said this, he didn't even look at me. His expression was calm, showing no signs of lying. I smiled bitterly to myself. Ethan said he would take care of me and Leo, that Shenzhen and I were both his women, so this was what it amounted to. In front of Shenzhen, what did Leo and I count for? But then I thought, if I was getting upset over Shenzhen, wasn't I just being jealous of myself? The person Ethan loved had always been Shenzhen. I should be happy, shouldn't I? I ignored them and carried Leo straight to my room. "Mommy, who is that lady? Why is Uncle Ethan holding her? That lady's eyes are so scary. I don't like her," Leo said, sounding aggrieved in my arms. Lately, Leo had become more and more attached to Ethan. Seeing a woman suddenly monopolize him must have made him afraid that Ethan would be taken away. Poor child, I had to confirm who Leo's biological father was as soon as possible. "That's Uncle Ethan's friend. Leo, go to sleep now. Mommy's here with you." I gently patted the child's back and sang a lullaby to lull him to sleep. Leo gradually fell asleep, and I put him in the children's room inside my bedroom. The door suddenly opened, and Ethan stood before me. "Sule, I'm sorry for what I said just now. It's just that Shenzhen has lost her memory and is very fragile. I was afraid she would get emotional, so I could only say you were my friend," Ethan said, looking at me with some apology. "It's nothing. I'm already very happy that you could say I'm your friend," I smiled at him. "Sule, I'm so happy that Shenzhen is alive. I can't afford any mistakes now, so." "Ethan, I understand. I'm also happy for you that Miss Shen is back. Don't worry, I'll take Leo and leave as soon as possible," I interrupted Ethan, once again smiling at him nonchalantly. It was better for me to take the initiative to leave than to have Ethan ask me himself. But before I left, I had to get something effective to prove whether Ethan and Leo were really related. Because based on the memories I had recovered, I loved Ethan to the bone. It was impossible for me to have a child with another man. Chapter 21, Paternity Test. "Sule, I don't mean to kick you out. It's just that Shenzhen has nowhere to go right now and can only stay with me. This way, we can awaken her memories sooner. I will arrange another place for you and Leo to live. Don't worry, since I promised to take care of you and Leo, I won't abandon you," Ethan said, looking at me seriously. "Will Miss Shen agree?" I asked. "Shenzhen is very kind. She wouldn't watch a mother and son wander homeless," Ethan said with certainty. Shenzhen was naturally kind, but Isabella Rossi was not. Ethan, you've finally found the woman you love most. I'm very happy for you. I naturally know that Miss Shen is very kind, but even the kindest woman probably wouldn't be willing to share her man with someone else. Don't you think? I looked at Ethan with seductive eyes. I didn't have much time left. Today, I had to get what I needed. I smiled seductively at him, pretending to unbuckle his belt. I saw his Adam's apple bob, his breathing becoming more and more rapid. I stuck out my tongue, stood on my tiptoes, and kissed his sexy Adam's apple. Ethan let out a low growl and picked me up. He placed me directly on the large bed, skillfully stripped off my clothes, and kissed me. From outside the door came the sound of Shenzhen calling for Ethan. Ethan's body stiffened. He quickly got up, put on his clothes, and left my room. I quickly got out of bed, picked up the condom Ethan had thrown in the trash can, took out a pre-prepared syringe, and extracted the semen from the condom. Outside, I heard the voices of Shenzhen and Ethan, followed by the sound of a door closing. Then it was quiet. It seemed my performance had worked and made Shenzhen restless. I put away the syringe, went to the children's room, picked up Leo, grabbed my already packed luggage, and quickly left the villa. I drove directly to the city's DNA testing center. The staff looked at what I presented with some surprise and disdain, but quickly concealed it. I didn't care. These were minor things to me now. I had Leo's blood drawn and watched as the blood and semen were placed together in a container. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Soon, I would know the result. After leaving the testing center, I took Leo to a hotel. I couldn't go back to the villa. Until Leo's test results came out, I could only stay in a hotel with him for the time being. That night, Ethan called me and asked why I wasn't at the villa. I had to lie and say that I wanted to give him and Shenzhen some private time, and that I would go to the place he arranged for me after he had everything settled. I would stay in a hotel for a few days. Ethan offered to arrange a hotel for me, but I immediately said no. The next day, I took Leo and moved to another hotel, afraid that Ethan would find us. I knew Ethan well. Even with Shenzhen back, he would keep his promise to me. For now, I could only focus on waiting for the test results. Chapter 22, Paternity confirmed a few days later. The test results finally came out. I held the report in my hand, but I hesitated to open it. I took Leo back to the hotel, and after coaxing him to sleep, I opened the report with trembling hands. Seeing the 99.9999 probability of paternity on the report, my hands trembled even more. I glanced at the still sleeping Leo, at his face that bore a slight resemblance to Ethan Cole's. I couldn't help but be overcome with grief, and tears streamed down my face. My Leo, he really is Ethan's son, I cried harder and harder, as if to release all the suffering I had endured over the years. Afraid of waking Leo, I covered my mouth and ran into the bathroom, sat on the toilet, and sobbed uncontrollably. If it weren't for Eleanor Cole, who so cruelly stripped me of my memories, how could my Leo have been seen as an illegitimate child? His own father was right in front of him, yet they couldn't acknowledge each other, and he had to live a life of hiding. And I myself, from a cheerful and confident girl, became a humble prostitute, and was even despised by the man I loved most. The pain of the sharp blade cutting my cheek and the searing branding iron on my throat seemed to still burn me, making me wish I were dead. Eleanor Cole, I will personally make you pay for everything you have done. I cried for a long time until I was exhausted. Then I dried my tears and washed my face. Seeing my own red eyes in the mirror, I silently swore that I would never cry again. From now on, I will only make my enemies shed tears. I went to Leo's side, stroking his soft cheek, and my eyes welled up with tears again. But these were tears of joy, of relief. Mommy is so happy. You are the child of me and your father, the fruit of our love, my child. Mommy is so sorry. Your father was right there, but Mommy knew nothing, and let so many people think you were an illegitimate child. Trust Mommy, Mommy will let you and your father be reunited as soon as possible. Eleanor Cole, just you wait. The sins you have committed will soon be brought to light. After Leo woke up, I took him to my friend Asha's place. Asha was a good friend of mine from the nightclub. People always say actresses are heartless and whores are faithless. But who knows the helplessness and humility of some women who are forced to become prostitutes? Asha was forced out by her family. Later, A medical accident during an abortion at a small clinic, though she survived, left her unable to ever become a mother. During that time, none of the family members who had long relied on Asha for support showed up. I was the one who took care of her. After Asha recovered, she finally came to her senses, completely cut ties with her family, left the nightclub, and found a normal job as a waitress. Before, she had always helped me take care of Leo. When Asha saw me, she didn't ask anything, just held Leo and said she would take good care of him so I didn't have to worry. I kissed Leo. Although I was reluctant to leave him, I knew our separation was only temporary. After leaving Asha's place, I found a small inn that didn't even require an ID to check in, went to a mobile phone store to get a new number, and turned off my old phone. This way, Ethan wouldn't be able to find me for a while. Eleanor Cole was his mother, after all. I didn't want him to be caught in the middle. Revenge was something I had to do myself. Having made up my mind, I went out and bought a wig, a baseball cap, and new clothes. I returned to my room, put on makeup, the wig, and the cap, changed my clothes, and looked at myself in the mirror. I was indeed a different person. I smiled with satisfaction, went out, and bought a voice changer. I returned to my room again, picked up the voice changer, and called Eleanor Cole. Chapter 23, Su Li is Shenzhen. The phone rang a few times and then was disconnected. I called again, and this time the call was finally answered. What do you want? I'm not buying insurance. Stop bothering me, Eleanor Cole shouted impatiently, about to hang up. Eleanor Cole, don't you remember me? I remember you. My voice, processed by the voice changer, sounded strange, like a ferocious man's voice. Even I couldn't recognize it. Who are you? I don't know you. Eleanor, perhaps because I had correctly stated her name, had a hint of vigilance in her voice. You don't know me, but I know you very well. Who on earth are you? Have you forgotten everything you did to Shenzhen 2 years ago? I remember it all very clearly. Who are you? What Shenzhen? I don't know her at all. Don't try to scare me with your games. Eleanor paused for a moment, but her tone was slightly stiff. You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that I know what you did. Transfer $5 million to me immediately, or I can't guarantee that I'll be the only one who knows what you've done. Mrs. Cole, I threatened. Are you robbing me? $5 million. I, Eleanor Cole, am not afraid of you. What does Shenzhen's business have to do with me? She disappeared on her own. It has nothing to do with me. Even if you tell anyone, it has nothing to do with me. Eleanor continued to play dumb. I was annoyed by her shamelessness, but it was what I had expected. Her viciousness was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Mrs. Cole, you are the mother of the chairman of the Cole Corporation. Is your reputation not worth a mere $5 million? If I were to say that the Su Li by Ethan Cole's side right now is Shenzhen, would you still think it has nothing to do with you? Instead of getting angry, I laughed, speaking with great patience. Ha, Su Li, she's just a prostitute, a plaything for my son to pass the time. How could she be Shenzhen? You should know Shenzhen was my son's former girlfriend. If she were Su Li, would he not recognize his own girlfriend? They are two completely different people. Eleanor's voice was still sharp, but it was clearly trembling. Oh, Ethan Cole can't recognize Shenzhen. Isn't that because of what you did? If Ethan knew that you were the one who caused his girlfriend to lose her memory, had her face surgically altered to its current state, and then arranged for her to become a lowly prostitute, what do you think he would think? Don't talk nonsense, you're crazy. Even if you told others that Su Li and Shenzhen are the same person, even my son can't recognize them. Who would believe they are the same person? Eleanor was still arguing. Even though I already knew how evil Eleanor was, I didn't expect her psychological fortitude to be so strong. Apart from a slight initial anomaly, there was no trace of guilt. She even began to test me. Eleanor Cole, perhaps Ethan won't believe what I say, but there is one person whose words he will definitely consider seriously, and that is Shenzhen's mother. She hasn't had plastic surgery. If she were to tell Ethan, do you think he would be suspicious? After all, no mother would fail to recognize her own child, I said with a cold laugh. After that, I heard Eleanor's somewhat panicked voice on the phone. What nonsense are you talking about? Shenzhen's mother died long ago. Don't try to scare me with your ghost stories. Eleanor Cole, Shenzhen's mother is named Charlotte Vance, isn't she? I'm not lying to you. She's not dead, she's alive and well. Ethan knows her. She hasn't had plastic surgery. If I tell her about this, and she and Sue Lee reunite and do a paternity test, do you think that would be proof? Before Alina could say anything, I hung up the phone. In the instant I hung up, I clearly heard Alina gasp. Chapter 24. Give me 5 million Alina Cole, so you can be afraid to putting away the voice changer. I opened the simple drawer in the hotel room. A photo lay quietly inside. I took it out. It was a face very similar to my mother, Charlotte Vance's. The first time I saw this woman, I also thought she was my deceased mother. If even I could be mistaken, what about Alina Cole? A smile touched my lips. I took a picture of the photo and sent it directly to Alina. Alina Cole, I'm really looking forward to your reaction. When you see this picture, I wonder if you'll have nightmares tonight. Beep beep. My phone rang soon after. It was Alina Cole. What? You saw the picture and couldn't wait a moment to call. I hung up directly. The phone rang again. I hung up again. After this happened 7 or 8 times, I finally answered reluctantly. Why did you take so long to answer? Are you doing this on purpose? Alina's voice was both terrified and full of anger. Mrs. Cole, I am doing this on purpose. What can you do about it? I deliberately provoked her. You! Alina's voice seemed to be squeezed from between her teeth. Brother, my mistake. I was blind. I was in a bad mood just now. Can we meet and talk properly? Perhaps under the pressure of the photo, Alina was forced to suddenly soften her tone. When I wanted to talk to you properly, you didn't give me face. Now you want to meet just because you say so? Is it that easy? What do you take me for? I deliberately raised my voice. I'm sorry, my apologies, brother. If you have any requests, just ask. I'll do my best to satisfy them. That's more like it. Transfer 5 million to my bank account. I'll send you the card number. I hung up after speaking and sent Alina a bank card number opened with someone else's ID. In less than 10 minutes, a text message notified me that 5 million had been deposited. Looking at the account balance, I smiled. Alina Cole, have you finally learned your lesson? The phone rang again. Alina's voice was full of urgency. Brother, I've sent the money. Let's meet now. You can decide the place, okay? Meet? What meeting? I never said we'd meet. I played dumb. Didn't you say we'd meet if I sent 5 million? Alina's voice suddenly rose. Brother, how about this? I'll send you another 10 million. We can meet, or you can tell me where Charlotte Vance lives, okay? All right then, once you've sent the money, I'll arrange a meeting place and send you the address. I deliberately paused for a moment before reluctantly agreeing. Okay, I'll send it right away. Please arrange the meeting as soon as possible, Alina said immediately. Got it. Send the money quickly and don't call me again, or I'll go tell your son. I hung up the phone. 10 million was transferred over quickly. I smiled, put away my phone, and went straight to the bank. I withdrew 100,000 and went to the nightclub where I used to work. Well, if it isn't Lily. What are you doing back here? Weren't you kept by some rich man? You have time to come back here, said a girl I used to not get along with. I nodded without paying her any mind and went straight to find the tallest and fiercest-looking bouncer in the nightclub, Bruno. Bruno and I used to be on good terms, and most importantly, he was a very loyal person. He was the perfect person for this job. Chapter 25. Trying to kill me won't be that easy. I went to a private room with Bruno. I gave him $100,000 directly. Lily, what's this? What do you need my help with? Bruno's eyes lit up at the sight of the money. He paused for a moment, then quickly understood. Help me meet a woman. This is her photo. When you see her, don't say anything. Just tell her to transfer 50 million to you. Then, when she's not looking, put this tracking device in her bag and leave. Is that all? Yes, just do as I say. Take this 100,000. All right, I'm in. Let's go, Bruno said, and followed me out of the nightclub. Bruno and I went to the location I had arranged with Alina Cole, an open-air coffee shop with a wide view. When we arrived, I had Bruno go over to meet Alina while I, wearing a wig and a hat, sat down in a dessert shop not far from them. My line of sight was directly on Alina on the other side. She looked anxious, constantly looking around, her brows tightly furrowed. Bruno walked over and sat down directly opposite Alina. I saw Bruno say something to Alina, and her face changed. She was probably shocked by Bruno's exorbitant demand. Bruno stood up as if to leave. Alina, in her panic, forgot her usual elegant demeanor of a wealthy socialite and anxiously grabbed his arm. I watched from a distance as Bruno seemed to push Alina impatiently. Caught off guard, Eleanor staggered back. The coffee cup on the table was knocked over, and the coffee spilled onto her clothes. Eleanor seemed to be scalded and frantically grabbed a napkin to wipe it off. While Eleanor was in a state of panic, Bruno discreetly dropped something into her bag and then strode away. When Eleanor saw Bruno leave, she disregarded her disheveled state, grabbed her bag, and rushed in his direction. But Bruno was nowhere to be seen. Watching Eleanor's anxious and disheveled state, I picked up the juice on my table and took a light sip. The sun was shining brightly outside, and everything was very pleasant. Seeing Eleanor's helpless expression and how she seemed to be about to make a call, I immediately set my phone to silent. Sure enough, the phone started to vibrate. Watching the phone ring again and again, I smiled silently. Seeing that I wasn't answering, Eleanor finally left, dejected. After she left, I also returned to the inn. I turned on the listening device to see what Eleanor would say. I heard a clattering sound from the device, as if someone was throwing things. It seemed Eleanor was so angry she had no other way to vent. Then, Eleanor's voice, full of gritted teeth, came through the device. "Charlotte Vance, you bitch, why aren't you dead yet? And that little bitch, the little bitch I should have gotten rid of 2 years ago, they should all die. You want me to give you money?" No way, no way, her voice was filled with a crazed hatred, coming through the listening device strangely, like a voice from hell. "You think you can make me, Eleanor Cole, submit? Impossible. How much effort did it take for me to get where I am today? That's right, as long as I get rid of that whore Sue Lee once and for all, even if that bitch Charlotte Vance comes looking for me, I won't be afraid. Haha. Sue Lee, I'll make sure you die a terrible death, a terrible death." A crazed and evil laugh came through the listening device. Although I knew Eleanor was already depraved to a certain extent, I didn't expect that this time she would actually want to kill me directly, this terrifying woman. "Eleanor Cole, you want to kill me, do you? It won't be that easy this time. I will make you reveal your true colors." Chapter 26. A time for just the two of you that night. I slept exceptionally soundly. Ever since I found out I was Shenzhen, I hadn't had a single night without dreams. In my dreams, I was always reliving the scenes of being disfigured and having my memory erased by Eleanor Cole. The me in my dreams was in unspeakable pain, always waking up gasping for breath and drenched in sweat. That night, I finally stopped dreaming. I knew that all of this would soon come to an end. The next morning, just as I got up, my old, turned-off phone rang. It was Eleanor Cole. I picked up the phone and answered. "Sue Lee, let's meet. The real Shenzhen has appeared now. I think we need to meet. I have something about Shenzhen to discuss with you." It seemed Eleanor was using Shenzhen as bait to get me to agree to meet. Isabella was Eleanor's adopted daughter. For her adopted daughter to become the person she hated most, I wondered if Eleanor was unaware. And to deliberately use Shenzhen to lure me, it was laughable. "All right, send me the time and place." I quickly agreed, pretending to be very interested in Shenzhen. Eleanor hung up, and a text message with the details arrived shortly after. She asked to meet me at a restaurant in 2 days. I replied, "Okay." It seemed Eleanor was planning to get rid of me at this meeting. Otherwise, she wouldn't have scheduled it for 2 days later. In these 2 days, she would surely come up with a plan to end my life when we met. I was about to turn off the phone, which I had only turned on for Eleanor's convenience, when I noticed many text messages. More than half were from Ethan Cole, asking why my phone was unreachable, where I had gone, and some asking me to come back. Looking at the messages, I thought of Ethan's worried face and felt a pang of sympathy. But no matter what, I had to resolve this matter as soon as possible. I went to see Leo. Asha was taking good care of him. Seeing Leo's attachment to me, I secretly resolved to bring everything to light as soon as possible. My Leo shouldn't have to live a life of hiding like this. The night before the meeting, I went to Ethan's villa. I knocked on the door, and the butler, seeing it was me, quickly let me in. I entered the living room, and the butler brought me water, saying he would go get Ethan. Soon, Ethan arrived in the living room. When he saw me, a flicker of surprise and joy crossed his eyes, almost imperceptible, leaving only anxiety and anger. "Sue Lee, where did you run off to? Why was your phone off? Didn't I say I would arrange things for you and Leo? What the hell are you playing at?" Ethan gripped my shoulders tightly, questioning me harshly, his dark eyes burning with a raging fire. My shoulders ached from his grip. Ethan was worried about me, wasn't he? even though he didn't know I was the real Shenzhen. Ethan, I'm giving you and Shenzhen time for just the two of you. You should be thanking me. I endured the pain and looked at him, smiling charmingly. In Ethan's dark eyes, a mix of anger, anxiety, and pain flickered. His brow was tightly furrowed, as if he had many worries. I wanted to raise my hand to smooth his brow, but I held back. I told myself not to feel sorry for him. I had more important things to do now. Ethan, how come you were gone when I woke up? A soft female voice came from upstairs. Hearing this, Ethan quickly let go of my shoulders. I looked upstairs and saw Shenzhen in a white silk nightgown, whom I hadn't seen in days. She seemed to have just woken up, barefoot, looking very pitiful. Shenzhen, why are you up without shoes? You'll catch a cold. Your body is already weak, Ethan said with concern and quickly walked upstairs. He directly scooped up Shenzhen in his arms. I watched them calmly. When Shenzhen was picked up, she seemed to glance at me triumphantly before quickly concealing it. Su Li, have a seat. I'll be right down. Ethan took 2 steps, then suddenly turned back to look at me and said, his tone commanding. I nodded, and only then did Ethan carry Shenzhen towards the room. Chapter 27. DNA can't be surgically altered. I sat down in the living room, picked up a teacup, and drank quietly. From upstairs came the sound of Shenzhen's delicate voice and Ethan's gentle tones. Shenzhen seemed to be deliberately trying to embarrass me. After a long time, Ethan finally came downstairs. Su Li, Shenzhen wasn't feeling well, so I stayed a little longer. Where have you and Leo been these past few days? I couldn't find you anywhere. Stay at the villa tonight. I'll take you and Leo to another place in a couple of days. Just as I was about to answer, Ethan's phone rang. He stood up and walked to the window to answer the call. I sat quietly, not looking at him, but I could still feel his gaze on me from time to time. Su Li, I have an urgent matter at the company now and have to leave. You stay put at the villa today. Don't run off again, you hear me. After finishing his call, Ethan walked over and said to me directly. His eyes stared at me fiercely, as if in warning. Okay, I won't leave. I promise you'll still see me when you get back. I looked up and smiled at him. Ethan looked at me inquisitively, as if judging whether my words were believable. I met his gaze calmly. Don't worry, I'll wait for you to come back. Only then did Ethan leave the living room and walk out. I watched his back. The evening twilight enveloped his tall figure, making it look somewhat lonely. A sour feeling rose in my heart. Everything I was about to do could put Ethan in a difficult position. But some things I had to do. I sat in the living room for a long time until I started to feel a chill. Then I got up and went to my room on the 2nd floor. On my way to the bathroom, I was pulled into a room by a pair of hands. It was Shenzhen. Su Li, why are you back again? You whore, you're just an imposter, my substitute. I'm back, why haven't you disappeared? You still have the face to come find Ethan. Shenzhen yelled at me, her eyes like 2 venomous snakes hissing at me. What, you can't keep up the act anymore? Are you scared? You keep calling me an imposter, but what about you? What are you? You got plastic surgery to look like Shenzhen, and you're still afraid you can't compete with a lowly whore like me? I didn't get angry, but laughed mockingly at the face that used to be mine. You, what are you talking about? What plastic surgery? I don't understand at all, Shenzhen said, somewhat incoherently, a look of fear in her eyes. What, when you look in the mirror every morning, looking at your own face, don't you feel scared? I raised an eyebrow and sneered. HMPH? Shenzhen feigned calmness with a light snort. What am I afraid of? What's so scary about my own face? Don't talk nonsense. I think you're just jealous that Ethan is so good to me, so you're deliberately framing me. You have such a vicious heart. Oh, your own face. You don't even know what you look like anymore. The fake can't be real. Even if you change your skin through plastic surgery, you can't change your blood. Don't say I didn't warn you. Ethan has already found the real Shenzhen's birth mother. When Shenzhen's mother and you do a DNA test, what kind of fun result do you think you'll get? The fear in Shenzhen's eyes intensified, and a thin layer of sweat even appeared on her forehead. I am Shenzhen. I'm not afraid of any DNA test, Shenzhen still said stubbornly. Your face can be surgically altered, but your DNA can't. Are you really not afraid? I deliberately provoked her. The facade of Shenzhen's composure finally cracked, and anger seemed about to burst forth from those cracks. Chapter 28, I'll go with you, oh Miss Shen, I was just kidding. Look how scared you are, you're even sweating. Here, let me wipe it for you, I said with a grin, as if my previous words were just a joke. I picked up a tissue from the side and made a gesture to wipe Shenzhen's forehead. Shenzhen slapped my hand away, annoyed. Su Li, what nonsense are you talking about? I'm not scared and I'm not sweating. In the future, don't make such jokes or I'll tell Ethan. Do you think he'll let you talk like that? Oh, if Miss Shen is willing, you can tell Ethan. He'll probably find it very amusing, don't you think? I stared straight at Shenzhen. Her pupils dilated slightly. What nonsense. Get out, I'm going to sleep. I sauntered to the door, then turned around as if casually. Miss Shen, good night. I hope you have a good dream. No, wait, you'll probably have a nightmare tonight. Shenzhen gave me a vicious look and slammed the door shut. I went back to my room, took a shower, and went to bed. There was a tough battle to fight tomorrow. I had to get a good rest. In the middle of the night, in a daze, I felt a pair of eyes quietly watching me. I wanted to open my eyes to see, but soon fell back into a deep sleep. The next morning when I went to the living room, Ethan, Cole, and Shenzhen were already at the dining table. When Ethan saw me, he just nodded faintly and said nothing. I walked over, sat down, and started eating my breakfast. Ethan, the egg yolk is too dry, I don't want to eat it. Can you eat it for me, please? Shenzhen's coquettish voice broke the silence at the table. Hearing this, I looked at them and saw Ethan's almost imperceptible frown. I sneered inwardly. Shenzhen probably didn't know that I loved egg yolks. It was obvious that Ethan remembered this fact very clearly. But Ethan said nothing, just took the egg yolk from Shenzhen and ate it in one bite. Shenzhen winked at me triumphantly, as if to show off the intimacy of Ethan eating her leftovers. I just drank my milk nonchalantly. Su Li, bring Leo over today, Ethan suddenly said. I'm afraid I can't today. I have something to do, I said, deliberately sounding hesitant. What, are you leaving again? Ethan asked coldly. No, it's because your mother asked to meet me today and I agreed, I said, pretending to be a little scared. Hearing this, Ethan's brow furrowed tightly. I'll go with you, I obediently nodded. Okay. The reason I came back was to have Ethan accompany me. Ethan, can I come too? If you and Miss Su leave, I'll be so bored at home, Shenzhen whined. Ethan looked at Shenzhen, hesitated for a moment, and then nodded. I watched coldly, without saying a word. Shenzhen was Aliner's adopted daughter. If she went today, I would see if Aliner knew about Shenzhen's plastic surgery. Chapter 29. No choice. When the time for the meeting with Aliner Cole arrived, I, Ethan, and Shenzhen left by car. On the way, Shenzhen, sitting in the front with Ethan, constantly flirted with him and showed off their affection. She didn't forget to flaunt her dominance over me through the rearview mirror. I held my tongue. This fake would soon be exposed. I was looking forward to seeing her dreams shatter. When we arrived at the meeting place, the three of us walked into the restaurant. Aliner was clearly taken aback to see all three of us. Why are you all here? The smile on Aliner's face was a little forced. Mom, what did you want to see Su Li about? You can say it in front of me, can't you? What could it be? I just think you shouldn't get involved with her anymore, Aliner said, looking at me with contempt. I noticed that Aliner didn't seem surprised to see Shenzhen. In fact, she didn't have that usual look of disgust that she had when she looked at me. It was clear that Aliner knew this Shenzhen was Isabella. Aliner was really indulgent with this adopted daughter. The child she raised herself had plastic surgery to look like the woman she hated most, yet she wasn't disgusted and even helped her hide it from her own son. And Ethan seemed to have no suspicion about any of this. Perhaps the return of Shenzhen made him overlook many unreasonable things, but time would eventually make all the unreasonable things more prominent. Beep beep. My phone suddenly rang. It was Julian. I stood up. Sorry, I have to take this call. As I walked out, I saw Ethan's ashen face. He must have seen that the call was from Julian. Lily, have you thought about what I said last time? Julian's voice came from the other end of the line. I was annoyed. Through the glass window, I saw Ethan seem to be watching me. This wasn't the first time Julian had called. Every time he called, it was to ask me to meet, to leave Ethan and be with him. Today, I had such an important thing to do, and he called at this time. If I missed today's opportunity, I didn't know what tricks Aliner would pull on me next. Julian, don't call me again. I will marry Ethan Cole in this life. It's impossible for me to be with you, I said angrily and hung up. After hanging up, I walked back to the restaurant. Seeing the 3 people inside, I suddenly had an idea. The reason Alina asked me to meet today was to get rid of me. If Ethan was there the whole time, Alina wouldn't be able to do anything. I walked in and went straight to Ethan's side. "Ethan," Julian called me again. "Come out for a moment, I have something to tell you," I whispered in his ear. As I spoke, Shenzhen's face turned ashen, clearly furious, and Alina also looked angry. Hearing this, Ethan got up and walked out with me. Ethan and I stood outside the restaurant. He had his back to the restaurant, and I stood in front of him so I could see Alina and Shenzhen by the window. From their angle, they could only see Ethan's back. A faint smile touched my lips. I had to get Shenzhen to come out too. I wanted to see what Alina would do. I deliberately hugged Ethan. "Ethan, what should I do? Julian is still harassing me. I'm really scared. What should I do?" I pretended to cry. Ethan's body stiffened in my embrace. He patted my back. "I'm here, don't be afraid," Ethan comforted me softly. Through his arm, I saw Shenzhen's face contorted with anger. She stood up and walked towards us. I smiled silently in Ethan's arms. Shenzhen had taken the bait. "Ethan, I'm sorry I used you, but I had no choice." Looking at Ethan still holding me, I thought with some apology. Chapter 30, White Powder. As Shenzhen walked out, I kept a close eye on Alina Cole, who was sitting alone. I saw her look left and right, then quickly take something out of her bag next to her. She opened it and poured it into my cup. It looked like some kind of white powder. My fingernails dug deep into my flesh. Alina Cole, just as I expected. She drugged me. "Ethan, what's wrong with Miss Sue? Why is she leaning on you?" Shenzhen's surprised voice came over. Only then did Ethan let me go. "She's not feeling well. Let's go inside," Ethan said lightly. Ethan strode forward. Shenzhen gave me a furious look, then reluctantly followed Ethan. I followed behind them, quickly took out my spare phone, and sent a text message to Alina. "This is the person who contacted you a few days ago. I see you. I'm right outside the restaurant where you are now. Come out, let's meet." I sent it quickly. By the time Ethan and Shenzhen went inside, Alina was already getting up in a hurry. "You guys sit down first. I'll be right back," Alina said hastily and walked out. Watching Alina being played by me, I smiled secretly, but my face remained expressionless as I walked to my seat. Ethan and Shenzhen looked at the hastily departing Alina with some confusion. I had already reached my seat and quickly switched my cup with Shenzhen's. Ethan and Shenzhen finally returned to their seats. I watched as Shenzhen picked up her cup and took a sip. A sense of satisfaction surged through my heart. "Isabella, don't blame me. That was prepared by your adoptive mother." After a while, Alina returned in a hurry. Of course, she couldn't see Bruno. That was a text I had deliberately sent to lure her away. I had turned off that phone number after sending the text, so she couldn't call either. She looked extremely frustrated. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Nothing. Sit down." Alina's face was full of worry and impatience. I saw that enough time had passed and deliberately pressed my forehead. "Ethan, my head hurts so much." I moaned in pain. "Sue Lee, what's wrong?" Ethan asked with some nervousness. "I don't know, my head suddenly hurts. I was fine just now." "Let's go, I'll take you to the hospital," Ethan said and helped me up. I stood up, leaning against Ethan, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw Alina's triumphant and vicious eyes. Alina probably thought I was already poisoned. "Ethan, you." Shenzhen saw that Ethan was about to take me away and was about to stand up too. I saw Alina pull Shenzhen's hand as if to signal her not to follow. "Shenzhen, you go home first. I'll take Sue Lee to the hospital to get checked out," Ethan said hastily, then helped me leave the restaurant and head to the parking lot. Ethan helped me into the back seat to lie down, then drove towards the hospital. I lay down for a while, then slowly sat up. "Ethan, I feel much better after lying down. I don't want to go to the hospital anymore. Let's go pick up Leo, okay?" "Are you really better? We should still go to the hospital," Ethan said, looking at me with some concern in the rearview mirror. "I'm really better. I promised Leo today that I would go pick him up." Seeing that I had indeed recovered, Ethan finally drove with me to pick up Leo and go back to the other apartment he had arranged for us. Chapter 31. Poisoned. When Leo saw me and Ethan Cole coming to pick him up, he was so happy he ran into Ethan's arms with open arms. "Mommy, Uncle, I missed you so much." "Sorry, Uncle was a bit busy and didn't come to see you." Ethan patted Leo's head, his eyes filled with a rare doting look. Looking at the father and son before me, a wave of sadness washed over me. We should have been such a happy family of 3 after dinner, I said to Ethan. Ethan, you should go back now, I'll take good care of Leo here. I'm going to give him a bath now. Shenzhen was still at the villa after all. I knew Ethan might be too embarrassed to say he was leaving, so I had to say it myself. It's okay, I'll stay here with you and Leo tonight. It's your first night here after all. I'm afraid you won't be used to it. Ethan took Leo from my arms and carried him into the bathroom. I looked at Ethan's back, feeling a little dazed. The gentler he was to me, the more I couldn't bear it. This man I had loved for so many years had such a vicious mother as Alina Cole. If I really took revenge on his mother, even if Ethan knew I was Shenzhen, we could never be together. Mommy, come in. Leo's happy shouts brought me back to my senses, and I went into the bathroom. Ethan and I bathed Leo together. Leo happily played in the bathtub. After his bath, I carried him to the children's room and coaxed him to sleep. When I finished, I found that Ethan had already entered my room. Ethan walked over and kissed me. His kiss was passionate and lingering, with a faint scent of tobacco. I wrapped my arms around his neck and responded eagerly, whispering his name, Ethan. In the middle of the night, a sharp ringing of the phone woke us up. Ethan answered the call, and his face immediately became grave. After hanging up, Ethan quickly dressed and got out of bed. Shenzhen is sick and in the hospital. I have to go. Remembering the glass of water from earlier in the day, my heart skipped a beat. I quickly got up. I'll go with you. Ethan and I drove to the hospital. On the way, I kept thinking about the white powder Alina had put in the water. It seemed the effects were kicking in. I hadn't heard anything all afternoon, so I had thought Alina had just used a laxative or something to vent her anger. It turned out she had actually used poison. By the time we arrived at the hospital room, we learned that Shenzhen's voice was so hoarse she couldn't speak. Shenzhen lay on the bed, her once fair and rosy complexion now a pale gray, her appearance haggard. Ethan looked at her, his face a mask of pain. What on earth happened? Ethan asked coldly, his body trembling slightly. The patient seems to have been poisoned. Not only can she not speak, but her stomach is also ulcerated. Fortunately, the amount of poison was not large. We have already pumped her stomach. She will need a period of rest to fully recover, the doctor said. It really was poisoning to think that Shenzhen had only taken 1 sip and was poisoned so badly. If she had drunk more, she would probably be dead. It seemed Alina really wanted me dead. Chapter 32. Are you serious? Doctor, please use the best medicine, no matter the cost. Please have Shenzhen wake up as soon as possible, Ethan Cole said in a low voice. The doctor nodded very solemnly before leaving. Ethan sat down, holding Shenzhen's hand, his eyes filled with pain and anxiety. Shenzhen, wake up soon, it's all my fault. I wasn't by your side and you got poisoned. I'm so sorry, Ethan said to Shenzhen, his face full of self-blame. The door to the hospital room opened and Alina Cole walked in. She looked at me in astonishment, as if she had seen a ghost. She opened her mouth, seemed to want to say something, but quickly closed it again. Alina was probably very surprised to see me unharmed after all. She had given me a lethal poison, and now lying in the hospital bed was her precious adopted daughter. Ethan, you're finally here. You scared me to death, Alina said, looking at Ethan. Mom, what on earth happened? How did Shenzhen get poisoned when she was fine? Ethan asked coldly. Ethan, Mom doesn't know what happened either. When you guys left, Shenzhen was fine. We went back to the villa together. Now that she's back, I also feel that I shouldn't have opposed you two before. I found that Miss Shen is a good girl, and we chatted very well, but I don't know why this happened. Alina said innocently and anxiously. Alina looked at Shenzhen on the hospital bed, her eyes full of worry and heartache. As venomous as Alina was, she genuinely cared for Isabella, her adopted daughter. After you went back, did Shenzhen eat anything special? No, we just ate at home. I ate too, and I didn't feel anything strange, Ethan. I've thought about it. It hasn't been easy for you and Miss Shen all these years. Since she's back, I've also come to terms with it. I won't oppose you two being together anymore. When Miss Shen gets better, you two should hold your wedding. Alina looked at me and said softly to Ethan. I laughed to myself. Isabella was truly Alina's adopted daughter. Mother and daughter had thought of the same thing. to marry Ethan under the identity of Shenzhen. Living with someone else's face, in constant fear, what kind of torment must that be? Weren't they afraid of the day the truth would be revealed? Let's talk about this later. The most important thing now is to wait for Shenzhen to wake up, Ethan said, not agreeing immediately, sounding somewhat dispirited. After speaking, he glanced at me, seemingly without intention. His dark eyes seemed to be covered by a layer of mist, and I couldn't see them clearly. Alina seemed to have noticed Ethan's glance at me, and her eyes, when she looked at me, were filled with a venomous hatred. I think Mrs. Cole's suggestion is very good. You and Miss Shen have finally reunited after so many hardships. You should indeed get together soon, I said, looking at Shenzhen on the bed. This should have been the reality for me and Ethan, a reality that had been shattered by Alina. Alina looked at me with some surprise, as if trying to figure out if there was some other motive behind my words. Ethan stared at me fiercely. Are you serious? His voice seemed to be gritting his teeth. Of course I am. I sincerely wish you and Miss Shen a long and happy life together, I said, smiling at Ethan. Ethan, you know what? This is my most sincere blessing for you and me. Ethan looked at me, but only frowned. Chapter 33. Watching a good show, Ethan Cole and Alina Cole stayed by Shenzhen's bedside. I walked out of the room and sent a text message in the hallway. Seeing the reply, the corners of my mouth turned up unconsciously. Next, a good show was about to begin. Alina, Isabella, you want to use my old face to marry Ethan. I'd like to see how an imposter gets married. I lay down on a chair in the hallway and closed my eyes to rest. I heard a sound from the quiet hospital room. Shenzhen, you're finally awake. Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere? Ethan's excited voice came through. It seemed Shenzhen was awake. I walked to the door of the hospital room and carefully observed everything inside through the window on the door. Shenzhen was babbling something, but couldn't form complete sounds. She just pointed to her throat, her expression frantic. Miss Shen, you were poisoned and can't speak for now, but the doctor said you'll be fine after a period of rest, Alina said, hugging Shenzhen and comforting her. Ethan looked at Alina with some surprise. Alina seemed to sense it and let go of Shenzhen. Miss Shen, I won't oppose you and Ethan being together anymore. When you get better, you can get married or date, whatever you want. Alina quickly changed the subject. Ethan looked at Alina and frowned. Hearing Alina's words, Shenzhen seemed to be reassured. She was no longer emotional, just looked at Ethan shyly. Only then did I push the door open and enter. When Ethan saw me come in, his face showed some hesitation, but I pretended not to notice. You must all be hungry. I'll go get you something to eat. Alina snorted and Ethan nodded. I turned and left the room, heading downstairs. Mrs. Peterson, the woman I had texted, had already arrived. Seeing her, I still felt a sense of closeness. Her face was so similar to my mother's. I had already discussed everything with her beforehand. I was just waiting for today. I bought some congee and went upstairs. The woman followed me, not far behind. Just as I entered the room and put down the food, the door was pushed open and Mrs. Peterson walked in. She went straight to Shenzhen's bed, held her hand, and tears streamed down her face. Zinner, my poor Zinner, what's wrong with you? How did you get poisoned? Why aren't you speaking? It's me, Mommy is here. You don't have to be afraid. Mrs. Peterson cried out emotionally. Shenzhen looked at Mrs. Peterson with a blank expression, clearly not understanding who this unexpected visitor was. However, she was quick to react. She covered her throat and said haltingly, I have amnesia. Who are you? Zinner, what's wrong with you? How could you not even remember Mommy? Mrs. Peterson cried even more sadly, hugging Shenzhen. Ethan looked at the hugging Mrs. Peterson and Shenzhen with a look of utter astonishment. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. After all, in his mind, my mother had died in a car accident years ago. How could she suddenly appear before him? I looked at Alina. Her hands were tightly clutching the hem of her clothes, and she looked like she was about to collapse. She would never have expected Shenzhen's mother to suddenly appear. I watched everyone's expressions with a cold detachment, feeling like I was watching a good show. I was curious to see how you would all act next. Chapter 34. You are my mother. Mrs. Peterson hugged Shenzhen and cried for a long time before she gradually stopped. Auntie Charlotte, is it really you? But didn't you already? Ethan asked, looking at Mrs. Peterson. Ethan, I know, you all thought I was dead, you must be surprised. Actually, I didn't die in that car accident. At that time, it was clear that the accident wasn't simple, it was deliberate murder. Zinner was afraid I would be in danger again, so she had to put me in a nursing home under a different name to protect me. Zinner said she was going out to find the truth and get revenge for me, but I never expected that I would never see her again after that, Mrs. Peterson said, wiping her tears. Watching Mrs. Peterson cry, for a moment, I also felt as if the woman before me was my mother. Back then, I had my doubts about that car accident. It was too different from a normal accident, it was deliberate. But my mother's death had been too painful for me to investigate. By the time I had recovered and started to investigate, I found that much of the evidence had already been dealt with, and there were no loopholes to be found. The police report also concluded it was an accident. Later, I myself had my memory erased by a leaner Cole, and after several years, it was even more impossible to investigate. Auntie Charlotte, but Shenzhen has also lost her memory. She doesn't seem to remember you either, Ethan said with sympathy. His scrutinizing gaze finally softened. Mrs. Peterson could recognize him accurately, and she had explained everything in detail. His suspicions seemed to have dissipated. How could that be? Even if Zinner has lost her memory, this is still my daughter, Mrs. Peterson said, her voice breaking. Mrs. Peterson lifted Shenzhen's blanket, pulled up her loose-fitting hospital gown, and a birthmark on her lower back was clearly visible to everyone. Ethan, look, this is Zinner's birthmark, you know it too, don't you? Mrs. Peterson said, her voice choked with sobs as she looked at Ethan. Auntie Charlotte, it's my fault I didn't take good care of Zinner, that's why she lost her memory. It's my responsibility, Ethan's voice also choked up. It seemed he completely believed that Mrs. Peterson was my mother. That's good, that's good. At least everyone is fine now. Everything will get better, Elena said from the side. Her expression was relaxed, the previous anxiety gone. It seemed she thought that since Mrs. Peterson and Shenzhen had reunited as mother and daughter, there was no need for a DNA test, and the truth would never be revealed. I watched coldly, knowing I had to step in. Ah, my head hurts so much, I cried out. Everyone looked at me. I pressed my temples, pretending to be in pain. Sue Lee, what's wrong? Ethan walked over, concerned. I don't know, my head hurts so much, I pushed Ethan away and walked up to Mrs. Peterson. Ma'am, why do I feel so familiar when I see you? You look like my mother, but I don't have a mother. You mentioned a car accident. How could I remember that? I remember being in so much pain, the car hit me and my head hurt so much. I remember the blood on your face, so much, so scary. I couldn't stop it, I couldn't. But you told me not to be afraid. I clutched my head, hitting it in agony. Who are you? How could you remember what happened then? That was when Zinner and I were together. What on earth is going on? Mrs. Peterson asked in shock. I hugged Mrs. Peterson and burst into tears, my eyes catching a glimpse of everyone. Ethan was staring at us, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. Shenzhen was also confused by the scene before her, not knowing how to react. Chapter 35, Not So Perfect. Elena Cole's lips trembled. She looked at me and Mrs. Peterson with a mixture of venom and terror. The panic in her eyes was unmistakable. Sue Lee, not only are you a tramp, but you're also a madwoman. What nonsense are you spouting? This is Shenzhen's mother. What the hell does it have to do with you? Do you think you can ruin things between Ethan and Shenzhen like this? Dream on. Elena gritted her teeth and pulled me and Mrs. Peterson apart. She dragged me out of the hospital room. I looked at Mrs. Peterson with tears in my eyes, crying even more heartbrokenly. Mrs. Cole, it's really not what you think. That's really my mother. I continued to shout. Elena ignored me and dragged me to a deserted stairwell outside the hospital room. There was no one here. It was quiet and gloomy. You little bitch, don't play tricks on me. I've eaten more salt than you've eaten rice. You better leave and stop ruining things between Ethan and Shenzhen, or don't blame me for being ruthless. A woman like you, I can crush you like an ant. Elena threatened me with contempt and arrogance. After speaking, she didn't even glance at me again and turned to leave. I sat on the floor, sobbing. I knew Ethan would be suspicious. He would definitely come looking for me. I had to play my part to the fullest. I heard approaching footsteps. I knew it was Ethan's footsteps. I was too familiar with them. I cried even more pitifully. Sue Lee, stop crying. What's wrong with you? Ethan came to my side, squatted down, and put his arm around me. I raised my tear-filled eyes and looked at him pitifully. In the past, whenever I made Ethan angry, as long as I looked at him like this, no matter how angry he would soften. When Ethan saw my eyes, he was clearly taken aback. Even though my appearance had changed, I knew Ethan couldn't forget everything between us. Ethan, I don't want to ruin things between you and Shenzhen. I really feel that woman is so familiar, she feels like my mother. I'm not lying to you, really, I sobbed. What on earth is going on? Ethan frowned in confusion. It seemed Ethan was also suspicious. Su-Li, you bitch, shut up. Don't talk nonsense in front of Ethan. Eleanor, who had appeared at some point, stood next to us again, shouting furiously. Mom, this whole thing is too strange. I need to ask some questions, Ethan said to Eleanor, helping me up. Eleanor's mouth dropped open in astonishment. She looked at Ethan, so angry that smoke was practically coming out of her nostrils. Ethan helped me walk out. A wave of satisfaction washed over me. Eleanor Cole, you see, your plan wasn't so perfect after all. Chapter 36. Are you an idiot? Seeing my emotional instability and having many questions, Ethan Cole took me away from the hospital. Su-Li, why do you think Auntie Charlotte is your mother? Besides the impression from the car accident, do you have any other memories? After leaving the hospital, Ethan looked at me, puzzled. I really wanted to tell him everything, but I had no evidence now. Eleanor's crimes couldn't be exposed. I only have vague fragments in my mind, but I wouldn't mistake my own mother. That feeling is too familiar. Ethan, believe me, I said earnestly. If you remember anything else, be sure to tell me, Ethan said with a frown. Ethan, I'm actually very worried that my mother is in danger. You know, her car accident might have been intentional. She's been living under a different name, but now she's been exposed. Can you arrange for someone to protect her? With Mrs. Peterson now exposed to Eleanor, I couldn't disregard her safety. Your concern is valid. How about this? I'll immediately arrange for people to bring Auntie Charlotte to the villa. You and Leo should come back to the villa too. The security system at the villa is better than the apartments, and there are more people, so it's safer. I immediately nodded. With everyone at the villa, it would be harder for Eleanor to make a move. Ethan took me to pick up Leo and return to the villa. By the time we arrived, Mrs. Peterson had also been brought back. I showed Mrs. Peterson to her room and got it ready for her. Since Mrs. Peterson was now my mother, Ethan would just think I was being good to my mother if he saw me with her. After settling Mrs. Peterson in, I returned to my room with Leo. After putting Leo to sleep, I took the listening device into the bathroom. I was curious to see how Eleanor would react. What to do, this is it, it's over. Eleanor's voice was full of anxiety. What to do? Mom, things aren't as bad as you think. Brother Ethan won't suspect I'm not Shenzhen. So what if Shenzhen's mom is here? Isabella's voice was nonchalant. Are you an idiot? Why did you have to get plastic surgery to look like Shenzhen? What's the use of just having her face? Now that her mom is here, she'll find out you're not Shenzhen sooner or later. Eleanor's voice was sharp. All you do is blame me. What's wrong with wanting to keep the person I love by my side? Besides, Shenzhen is already dead. I look exactly like her and I have amnesia. How will they find out I'm not her? Don't you lose your nerve. What do you know? Don't you know? In her agitation, Eleanor seemed about to say something, but suddenly stopped. It seemed Eleanor didn't dare to tell Isabella that I was Shenzhen. The listening device picked up a noisy sound and the sound of running water. I listened carefully. It seemed Eleanor had gone into the bathroom. That silly girl Isabella, she has no idea that Su-Li is Shenzhen. Now that Charlotte and Su-Li are together, and Su-Li has some memory of the past, it's inevitable that she'll remember everything over time. What should I do then? No, I must stop this. Eleanor's voice came through intermittently. I was startled. It seemed Eleanor was going to make a move. Both I and Mrs. Peterson needed to be careful. Fortunately, I had Ethan bring Mrs. Peterson to the villa. It would be easier to fall into Eleanor's trap elsewhere. Chapter 37. A bad feeling, I turned off the listening device and left the bathroom. Ethan Cole came to my room, saying he had to go out for a while on company business, and that I, Leo, and Mrs. Peterson should not leave the house and to call him if anything happened. I nodded. Not long after Ethan left, Eleanor returned to the villa. I watched her warily. She, however, completely ignored me and walked over with a smile, taking Mrs. Peterson's arm. "Oh, Charlotte, you probably don't know yet, but I told Ethan that once Shenzhen is discharged, we'll let the two of them get married. We'll be in-laws then," Eleanor said with a wide smile, showing no trace of insincerity. I was stunned. What was Eleanor up to? Was she trying to get close to me or Mrs. Peterson to get rid of us? "Let's talk about this after Zinner gets better, Mrs. Peterson said politely and distantly, her arm slipping out of Eleanor's grasp. Of course, Shenzhen is still in the hospital. The most important thing is for her to get well soon. I came back because the hospital food is not good. I want to buy some of Shenzhen's favorite dishes for her, but I don't know what she likes. Would you go with me to buy them?" Eleanor was not annoyed at all and remained very polite. I really wanted to stop her and kept giving Mrs. Peterson meaningful looks, but Mrs. Peterson just gave me a reassuring look and quickly agreed with a smile. I knew that not agreeing at this time might arouse Eleanor's suspicion. After all, with her daughter in the hospital, going to buy groceries and cook for her was a very normal thing to do. Watching Eleanor and Mrs. Peterson leave together, I had a very bad feeling. Eleanor's special trip back couldn't have been just to buy groceries. There must be some conspiracy. I quickly called Bruno and asked him to have someone follow Eleanor and Mrs. Peterson. I also followed them secretly. The market was not far from the villa. I followed them, watching them walk slowly forward. At the corner of the road, I saw a murderous glint in Eleanor's eyes. It seemed she wanted to push Mrs. Peterson out. The corner was a blind spot with a lot of traffic. Drivers would not be able to react in time to a pedestrian suddenly appearing. My heart was in my throat. Fortunately, Mrs. Peterson was quick-witted and seemed to have seen through Eleanor's intentions, only walking on the inside of the road. I heaved a sigh of relief and continued to follow them. On the way, I saw Eleanor try to push Mrs. Peterson into the path of speeding cars several times, but Mrs. Peterson was quick and managed to escape each time. My back was soaked with sweat without me even realizing it. This couldn't go on. I couldn't let Mrs. Peterson be in danger anymore. The reason Mrs. Peterson was helping me was because her own daughter had needed a large sum of money for heart surgery, and I had helped her pay for it. That was why she wanted to repay my kindness and help me with my revenge. I couldn't involve her in my own problems. Otherwise, who would take care of her daughter? I had to think of a way. I watched as Eleanor led Mrs. Peterson onto a pedestrian bridge. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. A bridge was not like flat ground. It was impossible to defend against an attack. In my desperation, I immediately took out the voice changer and the new phone and called Eleanor. "Eleanor Cole, I see you. You're really bold. You actually want to kill Shenzhen's mother. Do you want to die, huh?" I said angrily and maliciously, my tone deep and cold. Eleanor picked up her phone and looked around in panic. I quickly hid behind a large tree nearby. "Eleanor Cole, don't look around. Be careful or I'll kill you right now. You better behave." Eleanor was so scared her hands were shaking and her body began to tremble slightly. "Brother, I was just going to buy groceries with her. You misunderstood. Let's meet now. I'll give you 50 million, okay? Don't play tricks on me. Get the 50 million ready. I'll text you the time and place to meet," I said viciously and hung up. Chapter 38. Love and kill each other. I watched Eleanor Cole hang up the phone. She seemed a bit dazed. She appeared to say something to Mrs. Peterson and then left in a hurry. Mrs. Peterson turned and walked over. I knew that Eleanor probably saw the call from me and realized she had no chance to act, so she had to leave quickly. I walked towards Mrs. Peterson. "Auntie, I'm so glad you're okay. A person like Eleanor is capable of anything. You must not take risks anymore. If anything happens to you, even if I get my revenge, I'll feel guilty for the rest of my life," I said, holding Mrs. Peterson's hand with concern. "Sulei, it's okay, I know what I'm doing. Auntie knew Eleanor was vicious, but I never thought she would try to kill someone directly. Such a person is terrifying. You must be careful. You are our family's benefactor, and this is the least I can do to help you." Mrs. Peterson held my hand, and I didn't know what to say. Although I had been treated so cruelly by Eleanor, in this not-so-beautiful world, warmth was still so comforting. They made my desolate heart believe that kindness was not useless. Mrs. Peterson and I went home. Remembering the scenes from before, I still felt a lingering fear. I couldn't let Mrs. Peterson and myself be in danger anymore. This revenge really had to end. I had too many people to protect, and Ethan, I had been hiding it from him all this time. If he found out the truth one day, how painful his heart would be thinking of this, I couldn't bear it. I loved him, and I wanted to tell him everything as soon as possible. After returning to the villa and having dinner, I went to find Bruno. I asked him to meet with Alina again tomorrow, gave him some instructions, and another sum of money. He promised me he would do a good job. When I came out of the nightclub, I unexpectedly ran into Julian Croft, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. "Well, if it isn't Lily, I finally found you. What are you doing back at the nightclub? Is the money Ethan gave you not enough? You should have come to me. Can the nightclub give you as much money as I can?" "Huh," Julian said with a grin. "You're overthinking it. I was just here to find someone. I told you before I will marry Ethan Cole. Don't look for me again." My tone was cold. "Ha, you're still dreaming. Don't forget, Shenzhen is back. Will Ethan still want you?" "Why wouldn't he? Shenzhen was poisoned so badly she can barely speak, and she's still in the hospital. I think she's probably going to be killed off in a few days. How can she compete with me for Ethan?" I deliberately said this to get Julian to bother Shenzhen so he wouldn't bother me anymore. Seeing this person reminded me of the scene of being raped, which was excruciatingly painful. "What did you say? Shenzhen is in the hospital? Don't lie to me." Julian's previously grinning face instantly changed, and he asked with an ashen face, "Why would I lie to you? Go to the 13th floor of the city center hospital and see for yourself. You'll know if I'm telling the truth or not." After hearing this, Julian left with a gloomy face. I watched his departing back, a faint smile on my lips. "Julian, go ahead and have a good time loving and killing this Shenzhen." After returning to the villa, Bruno sent me a text message saying that he had arranged a time and place to meet with Alina the next day. The location was the one I had arranged. I knew that there would be a good show to watch tomorrow. And everything would finally come to an end. Chapter 39. Get rid of the little bastard too. The next day, I asked Ethan Cole to go to the restaurant where Bruno and Alina Cole were meeting. I used the excuse that it might help me remember more, and Ethan, without suspicion, accompanied me. At this moment, Bruno and Alina should have already been in the private room, starting their conversation. And in the main hall, I had already arranged for the restaurant to set up a speaker, so the voices from the private room were being broadcasted completely and clearly. "Brother, I'm begging you. I know you're very resourceful. As long as you don't tell anyone about my plan to get rid of Sue Lay and Charlotte Vance, you can ask for anything." Alina's voice came clearly through the speaker. Ethan looked at me in astonishment, the veins on his temples bulging. "Tell me this is a prank, right?" Ethan asked in disbelief. I knew this would be a terrible shock to Ethan, but I had to tell him everything. I shook my head and pleaded with him, "Ethan, please, you must listen to the end." Ethan restrained himself, but his clenched fists betrayed the turmoil in his heart. "That's more like it. I told you before, give me 50 million, and I'll get rid of Sue Lay and her mother for you without anyone knowing. I guarantee you'll have nothing to worry about in the future." Bruno's cheerful voice came through. Ethan's fists clenched even tighter, his knuckles turning white. Alina hesitated for a moment, as if thinking. "All right, I'll add another 10 million. You get rid of that little bastard Leo for me too." Alina's voice came through, bone-chillingly cold. Even though I knew Alina was ruthless, hearing this sentence still sent a shiver down my spine. I knew Alina hated me to the bone, but I never thought she would go after Leo too. Leo was only 2 years old. What a terrifying woman if even I was so shocked. What about Ethan, her own son? What must he be feeling? I looked at Ethan and saw his eyes were scarlet, as if they were about to bleed. I held his hand, my heart full of pity. If I could, I really didn't want to present these cruel truths so bloodily before his eyes. "Oh, really? As far as I know, that little guy Leo is very likely your son Ethan Cole's kid. You're going to kill your own grandson?" Bruno asked deliberately. This was something Bruno and I had planned beforehand to expose all the truth. "Grandson? Ha! I, Alina Cole, can have any kind of grandson I want. A son from a hostess, how could he be my son's? Even if he is my son's, as long as that little bitch gave birth to him, he deserves to die. I should have gotten rid of the root of the problem long ago. Back then, I should have killed that bitch Sue Lee. I was too merciful to her, just erasing her memory and giving her plastic surgery. Eleanor said through gritted teeth. Although I already knew everything Eleanor had done to me, hearing her say it all so casually still felt like my heart was bleeding with a bang. I looked up. Ethan's fist had already smashed into the nearby wall, and blood was flowing freely. My heart ached as I held his hand, wanting to bandage it for him. He shook me off, stood up, and staggered forward, forcefully pushing open the doors of the private rooms on the first floor one by one. I had anticipated this would happen and had specifically asked Bruno to take Eleanor to a private room on the second floor. "Ethan, will you please listen to the end?" Seeing that he couldn't find anyone, Ethan had no choice but to sit down in the main hall. His face was terrifyingly gloomy, the low pressure around him seemed to want to devour everything. Chapter 40, Dirtier Than a Prostitute. "So, you're admitting that Sue Lee is Shen Zin? Then isn't it possible that Leo was conceived before she started working as a hostess? That would make him Ethan Cole's son. Even a tiger won't eat its own cubs. Are you sure you want to get rid of the child? I'm helping you, you can't turn around and blame me later. You have to be sure now." Bruno continued to deliberately draw out Eleanor's words. "Get rid of him immediately. As long as he's Shen Zin's son, whether he's my son's or not, he must be eliminated." Eleanor's voice was sinister and ruthless. "How could this be? How could this be?" Ethan clutched his head, muttering to himself, his expression frantic and pained. Looking at his tormented face, I couldn't help but burst into tears. My most beloved person, I had to make him endure this pain. His mother wanted to kill his most beloved woman and son. How could this terrifying truth not drive him mad? "Impossible, this is impossible." Ethan stood up and staggered out. I hugged him from behind. "Ethan, Ethan." I whispered his name as if my heart was bleeding, hoping to bring him back to his senses. Ethan's body stiffened in my embrace. After a moment, he turned and hugged me. I looked up at him with teary eyes. A trace of clarity finally returned to his eyes. "Sue Lee, are you really Shen Zin?" Ethan asked with difficulty, his expression a mixture of anticipation and fear. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "I am Shen Zin. Every word your mother just said is true. It was because of her that I lost my memory and had plastic surgery. I forgot everything about my past and was arranged to become a hostess. I only recently found out who I am." "You're really my Zinner, really?" Ethan hugged me in disbelief, so tightly I could barely breathe. Seeing me cough, Ethan reluctantly let me go. His eyes filled with a mixture of joy and disbelief. "How could you be Shen Zin?" Ethan sighed. The joy in his eyes quickly turned to anger and pain. For a moment, various emotions seemed to flash in his eyes, contorting his face. In the end, Ethan seemed unable to process these terrible things. I saw his eyes turn crimson again. I held him tightly. "Anian, I'm your Zinner. I don't know why we ended up like this." Ethan's body stiffened. I hadn't called him Anian in over 2 years. It was our special name for each other when we were alone. This time, I could finally call him that again. "Zinner, what should I do? It's my fault. I let my most beloved woman suffer so much, to the point where she didn't even know who she was and even worked as a hostess. You must have been so helpless then, and I looked down on you time and time again. I deserve to die." Ethan held me and murmured in pain, slapping himself hard across the face. "Anian, it's not your fault. You didn't know anything either." I was already sobbing uncontrollably. "She's my mother. Why would she do this to me? Hurt the woman I love most and even want to kill you and my son? Does she have a heart? Where is she? I need to ask her why she did this." Ethan's voice was as cold as ice. I led Ethan to the private room on the second floor and knocked directly on the door. Besides Ethan, there were several police officers with me who had heard everything. Bruno quickly opened the door. Eleanor was shocked to see me, Ethan, and the police. Why are you all here? What are you doing?" Eleanor asked in a panic. "Lily, the recording is all done. This woman is dirtier than the dirtiest prostitute in our nightclub," Bruno said, looking at Eleanor with contempt. Chapter 41, Worse Than an Animal, What Did You Say? "Sule, you bitch, you set me up, didn't you? You whore, I'm going to kill you, kill you." Eleanor, realizing what had happened, lunged at me with a crazed look in her eyes. Ethan directly blocked her and questioned her loudly. "Mom, is everything you just said true? Tell me." "No, what I said was all lies. How could I do those things? It was all a trap set by this bitch Sue Lee. Yes, it was her doing." Even at a time like this, Eleanor still tried to frame me. I sneered, Eleanor Cole, what do you need me to play the recording of what you said again? Was I the one who made you say all that? Or have you forgotten what you did to me? Then, let me tell you one by one. More than 2 years ago, you had people kidnap me and take me to a basement. You had them cut my face and give me plastic surgery. You didn't let the doctor give me anesthesia. The knife cut directly on my face. Do you know that kind of pain? Remembering those bloody pasts, as if they were right before my eyes, my voice was filled with a heart-wrenching pain. The faces of everyone present showed expressions of horror, and they looked at me with sympathy. I didn't dare to look at Ethan. What must he be feeling hearing this? I continued. I was in so much pain I wanted to die, but the doctor still cut my face, one slice after another. Can you imagine that pain? You not only gave me plastic surgery, so that no one who knew me could recognize me, you even made me forget who I was. You found the most famous hypnotist to hypnotize me, to make me lose my memory. In my memory, I went from a cheerful and confident girl to a humble, lowly, and dirty hostess. Under those circumstances, I gave birth to Leo. That's your own grandson. Because of my poor health and living conditions, Leo got sick. How could you be so cruel? You still have the nerve to say you didn't do it. The more Eleanor listened, the more she trembled. The people around her were all pointing at her, their voices full of contempt and disdain. She's worse than an animal. Is she even human? How could there be such a venomous woman? And she usually acts like a rich socialite. Terrifying. Eleanor looked at everyone's expressions, and her mental defenses finally collapsed. She slumped to the floor. Eleanor Cole, are you even human? The most basic conscience and bottom line of a human being, have they been eaten by a dog? I looked down at Eleanor and asked sternly. Shenzin, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that to you. I just didn't want to see you with my son. Please forgive me, forgive me. Eleanor crawled to my feet, grabbed my pant leg, and wailed. Forgive? Do you think what you did deserves to be forgiven? I said with a bitter smile through my teary eyes. Chapter 42. Shenzin is captured. The police handcuffed Eleanor Cole and took me and Ethan to the police station. Eleanor was taken to the interrogation room, while Ethan and I were taken to an office for questioning. I told the police everything that had happened. After the questioning, I saw that Ethan was in a daze. My heart ached for him. I helped him sit down on a bench outside the office. Ethan, if you're feeling down, just let it out. I'm here with you. I had so much to say, but in the end, it all came down to this one sentence. Zinner, why did you lie to me? You've had your memory back for a long time, haven't you? Why didn't you tell me right away? Why did you choose to continue hiding it and deceiving me? When you saw the fake Shenzin appear by my side, you didn't think to tell me either? Ethan questioned me, his voice filled with sorrow. I looked at him. His eyes were bloodshot, and sadness flowed endlessly in those deep pools. My hand touched those eyes that used to be so clear and warm. Ethan, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I had no choice. I remembered everything, but I had no way to prove who I was. I had to get evidence, otherwise I couldn't have fought your mother. I had too many people to protect. I couldn't afford a single mistake. I sobbed, tears streaming down my cheeks. Shenzin, you still don't trust me, do you? You could have told me everything. I could have protected you and Leo sooner. I only found out today that Leo is my son. How could you bear to have us face each other and not acknowledge each other? Ethan looked at me, his face full of disappointment and pain. My heart clenched, so tight I could barely breathe. Seeing the man I loved most so tormented and conflicted, I wished I could feel the pain for him. Mr. Cole, Miss Shen, Eleanor Cole refuses to say anything. She says she will only cooperate with us if she sees you. Just as I was about to speak, a police officer came out and told us. Okay, take us to see her now, I nodded. Even at a time like this, Eleanor still refused to confess. We were led by the police to the interrogation room. When she saw me enter, Eleanor, who had been sitting quietly in handcuffs, suddenly became frantic and was about to charge at me. Shenzin, you little bitch, I'm going to kill you, Eleanor screamed maniacally. 2 police officers held her back. Eleanor Cole, be quiet. Do you want another charge against you? A police officer warned. I looked at Eleanor helplessly, this woman who had done so many terrible things to me. Now that her crimes were exposed, instead of repenting, she wanted to kill me. Eleanor Cole, you did so many unforgivable things to me, and you still want to kill me. What is your heart made of? I asked sternly. You were born of that bitch Charlotte Vance. You deserve to die." Eleanor looked at me, her eyes filled with a crazed hatred. "Eleanor Cole, my mother has been dead for years. You can't insult her like this. Ha ha, so that bitch is really dead, so that was a fake. You actually dared to trick me with a fake. Mom, why are you doing this? Have you ever thought about my feelings? You're hurting the woman I love most and my son." Ethan couldn't help but question her harshly. "I'm doing this for your own good. Shen Xin and the son she gave birth to both deserve to die. I'm your mother. You should listen to me." Knock knock. The interrogation room door was suddenly knocked on. I didn't want to deal with this stubborn madwoman anymore and opened the door to leave. The person who came in rushed past me as I opened the door. Only then did I realize it was Ethan's assistant. What was so urgent at this time? "Mr. Cole, bad news. Miss Shen has been forcibly taken away by Julian Croft and his men. We couldn't stop them," the assistant said anxiously. "Julian really went after Shen Xin and took her away." Chapter 43. Shen Xin is Isabella. I had intended to leave, but hearing this news, I stopped at the door, curious to see what would happen next. With Isabella taken away, I wondered how Eleanor Cole would react. She was in no position to help herself now. I wondered if she still cared about her adopted daughter. I looked at Eleanor. Her eyes were filled with panic. The fierce look she had just now was replaced with worry. Ethan, how could Shen Xin be taken away? What does that Julian Croft want?" "You have to go save Shen Xin," Eleanor said anxiously. Ethan sneered, his eyes full of mockery. "What Shen Xin? The real Shen Xin is standing right here. We don't need to worry about that imposter." Eleanor was stunned, as if she had never expected Ethan to say such a thing. She bit her lip, as if she had made up her mind. "Ethan, Shen Xin is not just anyone, she's your sister. Isabella Rossi, you have to save her." Eleanor burst into tears, her eyes full of anxiety. Ethan was shocked and looked at Eleanor in disbelief. Eleanor just kept begging and crying, all her previous arrogance from when she wanted to kill me gone. So Eleanor did have a mother's heart. She could have such feelings for an adopted daughter. Why then was she so cruel to her own son, putting him in such a difficult position? Ethan and I had to go find Isabella. We followed Julian's car from the hospital's surveillance footage all the way to the seaside. Seeing no way out, Julian got out of the car. He held Isabella, looking at Ethan with resentment. "Julian, let her go," Ethan said coldly, looking at Julian. "Ethan Cole, on what grounds should I let her go? You already have Lily by your side. Do you want both of them? You want to have your cake and eat it too? How about this, Shen Xin and Lily, you can give me either one. I'm not greedy, am I?" Julian looked at me, then at Shen Xin. "Brother Ethan, save me, save me." Shen Xin cried, looking at Ethan. To avoid putting Ethan in a difficult position, I had to step forward. "Julian, let her go, she's not the real Shen Xin. What's the use of capturing her?" My voice was somewhat broken by the sea breeze. Julian didn't seem to fully understand my words. It took him a moment to realize what I had said. He looked at me with a look of utter astonishment, and Shen Xin clearly understood immediately. Her face turned pale. "Su Li, what nonsense are you talking about? If I'm not Shen Xin, who is? I think you're crazy," Shen Xin said sharply, but the panic in her eyes betrayed her emotions. "You're the one who's crazy, aren't you?" "Isabella," I said with a cold laugh. Isabella immediately took a step back, looking at me in shock. "Ethan, don't listen to her nonsense. I am Shen Xin. She's just saying that to monopolize you." "Isabella, there's no need to hide it anymore. Ethan already knows everything. I am Shen Xin. It's just that before, my memory was erased by Eleanor Cole, and I was given plastic surgery to look like this. My throat was also burned, so even my voice changed. She even made me become a hostess. But now I remember everything." "What did you say? This is impossible, impossible," Isabella murmured. "How is it impossible? Eleanor Cole is now in police custody. She admitted with her own mouth that you are Isabella." Chapter 44. You must marry Isabella. Lily, is this true?" Julian asked, utterly astonished. I could only nod. Isabella ran to Ethan Cole's side, grabbing his arm and saying frantically, "Ethan, it's not like that. There must be some misunderstanding." Ethan directly shook off Isabella, looking impatient. "Misunderstanding? Do you want me to find the evidence of your plastic surgery and put it in front of you before you admit it?" Isabella was thrown to the sandy beach, looking heartbroken. "Brother," I didn't mean to. I had no choice. I did it because I love you too much. Don't abandon me, please." Ethan looked impatient and, without looking at Isabella again, was about to pull me away. "You bitch, it's all because of you that my brother is treating me like this. I'll smash you," Isabella suddenly screamed like a madwoman. I looked back and saw Isabella holding a rock from the beach, about to throw it at me. For a moment, I was stunned, not knowing how to react. I saw Ethan kick Isabella's chest with a swift and powerful kick, sending her flying a long way. She clutched her chest in pain, looking at Ethan with a look of utter heartbreak. Ethan, however, didn't even glance at Isabella and just pulled me away. Julian, perhaps frightened by what had just happened, didn't follow us. Ethan drove the car at high speed along the Riverside Road. I looked at his stern profile, a strange pain in my heart. I knew that Ethan must be feeling very conflicted at this moment, but I couldn't find the words to comfort him. The car fell into silence. "Leo, when did you know he was my son?" Ethan's somewhat strained voice broke the silence in the car. "Before I fully regained my memory, I had a paternity test done on you and Leo. It was only later that I remembered everything. I was actually already pregnant before my memory was erased, but I didn't have time to tell you before the accident happened. Zinner, I'm sorry. I didn't know anything." Ethan's voice was full of sadness and regret. I didn't know how to comfort him. These past events made me so sad I could barely breathe. I could only hold his driving hand. When we returned to the villa, Leo was so happy to see us that he ran over. Ethan picked up Leo and held him tightly in his arms. I saw his tears fall silently. Looking at the father and son, I couldn't help but cry too. "Uncle, why are you crying? Mommy, you're crying too. What's wrong with you guys?" Leo looked at Ethan and then at me, clumsily wiping our tears with his small hands. "Mommy is happy. I'm not crying anymore." I held Leo tightly. Ethan ate with me and Leo, his eyes fixed on Leo, as if he could never get enough of looking at him. My heart was both touched and sore. Beep, beep. The jarring ring of the phone broke the warm atmosphere. Ethan answered the phone. I saw his brow furrow deeper and deeper. I didn't know what was wrong. "The police said Mom wants to see me. I'm going to make a trip." "Ethan, I'll go with you." Ethan looked at me, hesitated for a moment, and finally nodded. We drove to the police station and went to the interrogation room. When Eleanor Cole saw me, her eyes were still filled with unconcealed hatred. In the end, she said nothing, just looked at Ethan with a cold expression. "Isabella came to see me. I'm relieved to see she's safe. I have only one request now. If you want me to confess, you must marry Isabella." Chapter 45, Not biological, that's absolutely impossible, Ethan Cole refused flatly. Eleanor Cole looked resentful and subconsciously glared at me, her eyes full of venom. "Ethan Cole, I'm your mother. If you don't marry Isabella, I'll die in front of you right now and make you an unfilial son," Eleanor threatened. I was shocked by Eleanor's stubbornness. Why was she so insistent on her son marrying her adopted daughter, even to the point of threatening suicide? I had no intention of getting involved between them and was about to leave when a police officer came out. "Mr. Cole, in the course of our investigation, we found an important clue. It seems to be Eleanor Cole's diary, which records some incredible things. I think you and Miss Shen should see it." He then handed over a somewhat old diary, which seemed to have been used for a long time and even had a lock. "No, you can't see it." Eleanor shrieked, her voice terrifying. I looked at her, puzzled. Her eyes were wide and her face was as pale as paper. She began to convulse uncontrollably and soon fainted. "Mom, what's wrong? Wake up!" Ethan shouted in a panic. The police sent Eleanor to the hospital. The doctor said she had fainted from shock and would be fine after waking up from the IV drip. Ethan sat by Eleanor's hospital bed, his brow furrowed, his eyes deep in thought. What important things could be recorded in this diary that would scare her to the point of fainting? Ethan said, looking at the yellowed diary thoughtfully. "You and Miss Shen should read it as soon as possible," the police officer said, looking at me and Ethan with some sympathy. Clearly, the police had already read the contents. "Do I need to read it too?" I asked, puzzled. The police officer nodded. Ethan and I went to the hospital park and sat down. He opened the diary with trembling hands, as if opening Pandora's box. We read page after page. At first, it was just records of daily life. But later, the diary detailed that Ethan was not Eleanor's biological son. Back then, to marry into the Cole family, Eleanor had put her own biological daughter in an orphanage and adopted Ethan as her son. And that biological daughter was Isabella. I was speechless with shock. Ethan was not Eleanor's son. Isabella was no wonder a woman as vicious as Eleanor was so good to Isabella. Everything could be explained. I quickly looked at Ethan. If even I was so shocked, what about him? The person involved. Ethan's dark eyes were filled with shock and pain. So that's how it is. No wonder, ever since I was little, my mother, no, Eleanor, she treated Isabella better than me. She really is something else. Ethan said self-deprecatingly, his lips trembling slightly, the sadness in his tone filling the entire space. My heart ached as I hugged Ethan. Anian, don't be sad. No one could have imagined things were like this. Zinner, now I know why I love you so much. The first time I saw you, I felt that beneath our seemingly sunny exteriors, we both had a void inside. You didn't have a father, and although I had a mother, I never received true maternal love. That's why we were so attracted to each other. Ethan murmured in my ear. Ethan and I talked for a while, and his emotions finally calmed down. I was about to put away the diary when a gust of wind blew, and the diary flipped back a few pages. I unintentionally saw the name Charlotte Vance. Wasn't that my mother? Chapter 46. Isabella's suicide. I opened it and read. The more I read, the more anger surged in my heart. It turned out that my mother was also killed by Eleanor Cole. No wonder she was so shocked to see Mrs. Peterson that day, and she hated me so much. I finally knew why. My father was Eleanor's first love. Later, because of her extreme personality, my father chose to break up with her. Later, he got together with my mother and had me. Eleanor was unwilling and always felt that my mother had stolen my father from her, especially after my father sacrificed his life to save my mother and me in a car accident. Eleanor's hatred for my mother intensified. She believed that my mother and I had killed my father. She had planned to kill both my mother and me in a car accident, but I survived. Then she discovered I was Ethan's lover. That was why she did everything she did to me later. I finished reading, trembling, already sobbing uncontrollably. So my mother really didn't die in a car accident, but was murdered. Eleanor Cole, how could she be so vicious? Because of her own selfish desires, she wanted to kill me and my mother. Zinner, don't be sad. Fortunately, the truth has come to light. Everything should come to an end. Ethan held me and comforted me. Yes, now is not the time for me to be sad. I must bring Eleanor to justice as soon as possible. I took the diary to the police and suggested that Ethan and Eleanor do a DNA test. The police quickly arranged it. After a few days of anxious waiting, the results finally came out, just as Eleanor's diary said. Ethan and Eleanor were not biologically related. The police quickly held a trial. Eleanor appeared in the defendant's box wearing a prison uniform, her head bowed the entire time, never looking at me or Ethan. I couldn't see her face or expression clearly. I didn't know if she felt a shred of shame. Just as the trial was about to begin, the door was suddenly thrown open, and Isabella ran in, looking distraught. Mom, what the police said isn't true, is it? How could I be your biological daughter? It's impossible. I was clearly an abandoned baby you adopted. Isabella ran directly to the defendant's stand and grabbed Eleanor, questioning her. Her gaze towards Eleanor was full of hope, hoping that Eleanor would give her a positive answer. Eleanor's originally dull eyes immediately became pained and struggled when she saw Isabella. In the end, she shook her head with difficulty. How could this be? How could this be? Impossible, this is impossible. Why did you lie to me? Why? I am your daughter, and you used me like this. Do you know what kind of life I had in the orphanage? Isabella seemed unable to bear this result and frantically pulled at Eleanor. Eleanor just shed silent tears, looking at Isabella with a face full of heartache, but she couldn't utter a single word. You should have just left me in the orphanage forever and never looked for me. I wouldn't be in so much pain. Since you gave me this life, I'm giving it back to you now. I don't want your terrible blood flowing in my body. I hate you, Isabella screamed frantically, hysterically. Police officers rushed up, but it was too late. Isabella, from somewhere, had produced a sharp little knife and slashed it across the artery in her wrist. In an instant, blood spurted out. Eleanor's screams and the chaotic noise of the crowd filled the entire courtroom. Chapter 47. The best ending. The trial had to be stopped. The police rushed Isabella to the hospital, and Ethan Cole and I went with them. As we were leaving, I saw Alina being taken to prison by the police. She was screaming shrilly, her eyes fixed on Isabella's direction. I didn't want to look anymore. If she had known this would happen, why did she do it in the first place? Isabella's life was saved after emergency treatment, but when she woke up, she was in a daze and didn't even recognize Ethan. She just kept singing a children's song. Ethan said it was a song Alina used to sing to lull Isabella to sleep when she was little. My heart twinged. No matter how vicious Alina was, she still had some motherly love for her own daughter. After Isabella recovered, she was sent to a mental hospital for treatment. Next came Alina's trial. When Alina appeared this time, she was listless. Her previously black hair had noticeable streaks of white, making her look 10 years older. She must have heard about Isabella's condition. The case was quickly tried. Throughout the process, Alina admitted to all the crimes. In the end, when the judge sentenced her to life imprisonment, there was a flicker of emotion in her dull eyes. Before being led away, Alina asked the judge for permission to repent to me. "Shenzin, I'm sorry, I can't ask for your forgiveness. I will repent in prison. Ethan, I beg you to take care of Isabella. It's all my fault. She's innocent." Alina's expression when she looked at me and Ethan was no longer arrogant. It was just the earnest hope of a mother. Thinking of my own mother, I suddenly didn't want to hate her anymore. Hating someone is too painful, too tiring. Since Alina had already been punished by the law, I wanted to remove the shackles from myself. "Yes, I will try to forgive you," I said with difficulty. A faint smile appeared on Alina's face, and she looked at Ethan with anticipation. "Don't worry, I will take care of Isabella as a sister," Ethan said, unable to bear it. Only then did Alina truly relax, a glimmer of light in her eyes. After Alina was taken away by the police, Ethan and I returned to the villa, feeling exhausted. Ethan ate with me and Leo and played with Leo. He carefully maintained our relationship, but I knew that we were no longer as close as before. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep for a long time. I knew I still loved Ethan, but this love was too heavy. Alina and Isabella stood between us. I didn't want our future interactions to be so cautious. This was not what I wanted. The best ending for us was to be apart. The next morning, after Ethan left for the company, I packed my things and took Leo. After a last, lingering look at the villa, I left. Chapter 48. The grand finale, I took Leo to a small town in East City, a neighboring city of Hong Kong, to live. The people here were simple and the scenery was beautiful. I taught at the local elementary school, and Leo got along well with the other children. Our lives became exceptionally peaceful. Time seemed to slow down here. A few months passed, and Leo and I became more and more accustomed to everything here. I occasionally reminisced about the past, and it felt as if those people and events had happened in a previous life, so long and distant. One day, I was teaching a class. Suddenly, a tall, handsome figure appeared at the classroom door. Ethan Cole, seeing that familiar handsome face, I was stunned. The person I thought I had let go of, now appearing before me, made me realize that I had never let go. What I thought was letting go was just deliberate forgetting. Some people, just by standing there, can take my breath away. The school bell rang, and the children cheered as class ended. They were all very curious about this handsome stranger, Ethan Cole. "Mister, are you here to see our teacher?" "Yes, I did something wrong and want to get your teacher's forgiveness." Ethan's eyes were full of a gentle, smiling light that reflected from the sun behind him into my own, so warm just like when we first met. "Teacher, the mister knows he was wrong. Please forgive him. Didn't you teach us that there is no greater good than to be able to correct one's mistakes?" The children chattered, pulling at me. My class for the day was over. Afraid of disturbing the children's next class, I pulled Ethan to the seaside, not far from the school. "Zinner, take Leo and come back with me. I really miss you both," Ethan said, his eyes burning as he looked at me, filled with endless affection. I was almost lost in this affection, but I still shook my head and refused. "Ethan, it's impossible between us. I've let go of the past now. I want to start a new life. Everything here makes me feel very calm. I'm doing very well." Ethan's eyes were full of pain. "Zinner, can you really forget me? Let Leo grow up without a father." "Ethan, although I've forgiven your mother, the hurt is still there. I remember the gushing blood on my mother's forehead before she died. Do you know what that feels like in my nightmares? And the plastic surgery, the feeling of those sharp knives cutting my face, only I know how painful and terrifying it was. And that wasn't the worst. The worst was when she altered my memory and made me become a hostess. I felt so incredibly dirty. That deep-seated inferiority made me feel like a rat in a sewer. But even so, I couldn't just die or change jobs. In my memory, I didn't know how to do anything else, and Leo's high medical expenses forced me to stay at the nightclub, even though I hated it so much. Before I met you, do you know what kind of life I lived in the nightclub? What kind of disgusting clients I met? You will never know. Even so, I managed to avoid the marijuana and drugs that clients offered me time and time again. But my sisters around me were still often found missing or dead. When they died, their bodies were completely rotten, reeking, and covered in pus. I will never forget. I was so afraid that I would die like that. I was afraid that if I died, Leo wouldn't be able to survive. All of this was brought on by your mother. Seeing you reminds me of all this. And I, in turn, set a trap to get revenge on her. We are sworn enemies. There is no possibility for you and me. You should go, don't come looking for me again. I closed my sore and swollen eyes, almost hysterical. Zinner, I know we can't pretend the past didn't happen, but please let me be with you and slowly fade those memories. You asking me to leave is absolutely impossible. Ethan's tone was both affectionate and domineering. I couldn't be bothered with him and walked back to the teacher's dormitory from the seaside. But unexpectedly, Ethan also came to the dormitory with me and even opened the door to the room next to mine. Shen Zin, hello, I'll be your colleague from now on. Please take care of me, Ethan said, smiling brightly at me. I was extremely surprised. In the afternoon, the principal found me and asked me to mentor the new teacher, Mr. Cole. Only then did Ethan tell me that he had resigned from the Cole Corporation and that from now on, wherever I was, he would be there too. I thought he was being ridiculous, but the school was indeed short of teachers, and I couldn't just leave the children I had been teaching for several months. So I had to let Ethan keep appearing by my side. I had thought that a young master like Ethan wouldn't last long in a poor school. If I just ignored him, he would leave soon. Unexpectedly, Ethan really persevered and even seemed to enjoy it. Seeing this side of Ethan, I slowly began to thaw. Tonight was my birthday. A few children pulled me to the playground, saying that everyone wanted to celebrate my birthday. The playground was filled with candles and flowers. Ethan stood in the middle, holding Leo and smiling at me, slowly walking towards me. Zinner, I will stay here with you and Leo forever. Please believe me, okay? The candlelight shone in his eyes, so bright, gentle, and yet nervous. The children cheered, say yes, say yes. My heart was filled with emotion. As proud as Ethan was, for my sake, he had even asked the children for help. A mist formed in my eyes, and I smiled and nodded heavily. Amidst the children's cheers, Ethan hugged me tightly. Zinner, for the rest of our lives, please take care of me. The end.